Okay. Let's move this over. There we go. Just not even set up correctly. Take out my earpiece, earbud. Every time I say earbud, I always think of airbud. Hi guys. Not too sure how long I'm gonna be here. I'm pretty tired, but I felt like doing a live stream. I just didn't know if anybody would be interested or if it would just be kind of, a waste of time. So I guess there was enough interest, so we'll do this. Congratulations on your new phone, Chris. No, it's optimistically, I'm just saying hello to September. 5 days late, but I'm excited. It's autumn, at least in the northern hemisphere, so I'm excited when September shows up. And then we get into Halloween, the month of Halloween, so that's always exciting too. I'm already asking my students what they are going to dress up as. I give extra credit if they do something that's related to the class, so something historical or something with geography. Usually if they want to do like an animal, that's acceptable. For me, I think since we still have to wear a mask, I was thinking of doing like different like fairies that have the representing the different classical elements, like a fire fairy, an earth fairy, because I think I could do that with the mask. I had considered doing different Johnny Depp characters, but I really need that without the mask for that to work. Somehow my face has a very Johnny Depp look when I dress, I guess what you would call a drag, I guess. But that doesn't work when half your face is covered with a mask. Yeah. Airbud created a small media empire, Airbud Entertainment. Did it? I have no idea. What's it for? Is it like, I don't know. I'm almost thinking like a guild for animal actors or something. You could do Prince in his later years. Oh, that would be fun. I'm still a big fan of the frilly, was it purple shirt that he did? Maybe I could do that. Because it still has to be school appropriate, you know what I mean? So I can't have anything that shows my tattoos. Nothing too tight. I thought of the... I don't really know. I just know she got popular as a character on... Because I kept seeing memes. Lady Dimitrescu? I don't know. But some people had sent me pictures of her saying, hey, you kind of look like her. And I thought if I wore like a higher neck that I could do that. And so I had mentioned it. And one of the students was mentioning being very thirsty, I guess, for that character. And I was like, okay, we're not doing that. That's one thing I never, yeah, no. Yeah, no. No. I just thought it would be like an easy, it's just like a white dress, some white, powder and red lipstick, a big ol' hat. I thought that would be pretty simple and I guess recognizable. But then no, if the students are into that character, it just doesn't sit right with me. So no, thank you. The Airbud Entertainment includes a Santa Paws series, 14 films in total, including one where dogs go to space. Do they visit Sirius? Because I feel like they should. Oh no, just remember dressing up like a woman from another country for extra credit. Oh goodness. No, I think that would be great as long as they don't do anything, like blackface, then I'd be totally okay with it. Hi John, we're just having a chat. I've been pretty wiped out. So I actually had food poisoning. I got food poisoning last Sunday. I have never had food poisoning in my life. I had no idea. I thought with food poisoning, you have like a day of feeling very crappy, and then that was it. I had no idea that it was gonna really, like, I can't eat anything remotely spicy. I keep waking up with heartburn, which I'm not a person that gets heartburn. I love spicy food. You guys that have been with my channel, you guys know I eat everything. These days, it's just like bread, rice, um, sometimes an apple or a banana. Um, I'll have some fruit, but I'm not like I won't seek it out. Like if it's given to me, like I'll eat some fruit, but I just have not been enjoying life. So I got it Sunday night. That was really bad. So Monday after work, I went and got an IV drip, just to get some more hydration and nutrition, like the nutrients in there. I've been doing a lot of like this mix of water, Powerade, and I know probably not the best, but mixed it with Monster energy drink, just to keep me awake at work. You know, when you're up all night in the bathroom, you just are not awake. And I think that's one thing that sucks about teaching is you can kind of go to work sometimes and feel like you're dragging, you know? But with teaching, you have to be really alert, like all the time. You have to be ready to answer questions and, you know, give a presentation that's not going to make the students fall asleep. Plus, I get really excited about my lessons anyway. But yeah, the difficult thing is when the students just are non-responsive. So it's like, all right, let me give you guys like some easy questions just to get you guys talking so I can at least feed off of that energy. And then they just don't. And I'm just like, you know? So not, yeah. I think the students don't realize how much the teacher really really needs that feedback. Yeah, otherwise, I, you know, it's like I'm barely awake anyway, you know, I'm very not feeling good. Can you guys please at least speak to me so I'm not having to repeat myself? And yeah, I mean, they're good in the sense that they're not like little kids where you have to yell at them and, you know, not yell at them, but you know what I mean, try to control them being all crazy. So I don't have to get very loud, but the opposite is that sometimes they tend to be too quiet. Even if there's just one student that just will go back and forth with me, that's enough. You know, that's enough. So that's, yeah. Lady Dimitrescu is 8 feet tall and famous for certain personal attributes, maybe not the best for the school environment. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was going to kind of keep it like a high neck, like a ridiculously high neck. But yeah, I'm not 8 feet tall. I mean, I'd like to say I'm taller than most of my students, but honestly, I don't even know anymore. Some of them are really tall. There's this idea that Koreans are short. No. I mean, there are short Koreans, but there's short everybody else, you know. What you might notice, like if you try to look it up now just out of curiosity, and you'll see, oh, well, what is she talking about? Because there's, you know, the average height is lower than the average height in a place like the US or the UK. Part of that is because of the older generation that lived kind of through the war. There was a lot of famine, so people weren't able to reach their like genetic potential for their height. So when those people are factored in, yeah, it looks like the country is quite short. But if you actually get rid of them, you know, I've got students way taller than me. It's very, yeah. There are times, you know, when I'm in an elevator and I'm the tallest person there and I feel like, I don't know, like some kind of weird giant, which is kind of cool. And then there's like my students that I'm like, okay, so you guys gotta make sure to do the homework. You know, they're just so tall. It's so mind blowing to me. African American face. Oh goodness. Well, remember, I mean, blackface is not just for the U.S., but I think you were making a joke there. Probably not the best, or replace the sugar and sodium. Right, right. Um, it's about 3 day minimum. Fruit or vegetable smoothies work good too. For me, I mean, there's a place that they do these fruit smoothies that are really just fruit, and it's great. And I kept thinking to myself, okay, go get one. I just couldn't. The idea of just drinking something with like an apple in it, or anything else. The idea of consuming stuff was really difficult. Um, like I don't feel hungry, and then just like a juice hitting my stomach just didn't just it just didn't sound good. Um, the school provides lunch, and it's a Korean school lunch, which if you guys haven't seen those, they look pretty similar to a Korean traditional meal. So there's rice, a brothy soup, and then just some various side dishes, including some proteins and some vegetables and some of those things. So it's pretty varied. I could just eat just the rice, and if the soup had absolutely no spice to it whatsoever, I could eat that. There was a soup that I really like. It's a fermented soybean paste soup called Zhenjangjige. I couldn't even eat that because they had put a little bit of this pepper in there, and this red pepper powder. And I had put my rice in there to kind of just make a little rice soup, basically. And I couldn't eat it. And I thought, what? This is me who eats intestines and blood and spiders. You know? I can't even handle this little soup. So I feel very pathetic. Yeah. So, oh well. Um, let's see. I'm a year 12 English teacher. I had a hard time with my class for that reason. Hello, Seabird. Honestly, Seabird, your comment on the poll really pushed me to do this, because I thought, you know, people were less interested in these just like loose chats. So thank you for sharing your opinion. Because that's what I was curious about. Yeah, so thanks for sharing that. I teach social studies, so I teach world history, AP world history, geography, and AP psychology. Let's see. Plus, imagination exceeds reality. They probably lose that interest when confronted with reality. I'm not sure what that was a reference to. I'm sorry. My city has around 20,000 refugees from Myanmar. They came around 2007, 2009. The first generation is growing taller than their parents, so it can be a diet difference as well, although I assume South Koreans eat well. It is a diet difference. That's why I was saying between the two generations. So for the war generation, people that are like my grandparents' age, they are quite short. They didn't have a lot of food access. Even something like white rice, that wasn't something easily accessible to them. So for them, they are quite short. But if you look at the difference between like the modern day North Koreans and South Koreans, obviously genetically still the same, but because of the lack of nutrition or nutritional availability in North Korea, they're like quite a bit shorter than South Koreans. Yeah. Yeah, it was a reference to the Lady D costume, the student liking the character. I don't know. I just don't want to chance it. Do you know what I mean? That just, especially knowing that like beforehand, I just feel like there's an ethical issue. If the student was like, "Oh, cool, I like that game. It'd be cool if you did that character." That's totally different. But the student said something like, Lady Dimeshku, or whatever, however you pronounce her name. Oh, please step on my neck. Like, to the character, not to me. And I was like, not going to dress up as this character. So, yeah. Yeah, no thanks. You're interesting on a lot of topics. I don't understand why people said no. I think it's because it maybe wasn't clear. I was like, oh, I'm tired. Um, should I do a live stream? I think people were being generous and saying like, don't pressure yourself to do a live stream. I don't know if it necessarily was no thanks. I'd rather watch something more structured. I know there are people that are like that, but I think those two types of votes had come in there. That's what I think. A character is way too attractive to ask a teacher to dress that way. Nobody asked me to dress that way. I mentioned it to the students. I don't see her as attractive. She's kind of creepy looking, which is why I was like, oh, cool, you know, simple costume, kind of creepy. Perfect, you know. I keep reminding people Lady D may be attractive to you, but you're basically future. Right, right. It's like dressing up like Jason, you know, or dressing up like, I don't know, Freddy Krueger. You know what I mean? It's like they got their outfit, they're gonna murder you. So I don't know. Um, what is subjective? The attractiveness of the character? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, like I said, I think she's more creepy or scary. The fact that she doesn't look super gross, like she doesn't look like a zombie per se, that adds to the creepiness, I think. But I don't think she's like an attractive character. She's got that really like creepy kind of smile. I don't think that's an attractive character. Same with Ted Bundy. I don't think he's attractive. I don't understand. People thought he was attractive because his eyes are always like that creepy eyes, you know? Just not. I don't know. It's. I don't know. So, how are you guys doing, by the way? Or, you know, if there's any questions you have for me or topics you want me to cover. I think we're still on level 4 in Korea, which is not very different, I guess, from level 3. The big difference is that you have to scan your QR code to get into most places now. A lot of places had a QR code scan, like a restaurant or something. But now, you know, gyms have it. And I don't go to a gym anymore. I go to just like a golf gym. And then if I go to like a department store or something, they you have to scan a QR code to get in there. There's a grocery store, you have to scan a QR code too. I teach everything in Korean. No, I teach a lot of foreigners. We teach at international schools. So I mean, like any Korean teacher could teach in Korean. The whole purpose with an international or with like a foreign teacher is that they are presenting this all in English, and it's for students that plan to study abroad. A lot of students want to study abroad for whatever reason that may not be super feasible for them, especially during the pandemic. So there are these international schools just set up everywhere. It's also good for students that are it's called gyopo. It means they're Korean, but they were born outside of Korea, like in another country. So some of them, when they come back to Korea for whatever reason, they end up not being able to adjust very well to the Korean system of the schools. And some of the students don't even speak Korean well enough to even attend Korean school. So those are, the international schools are for that as well. And also anybody that's like embassy people, but I don't think any of our students are embassy people. Yeah. How do I feel? I feel pretty drained, pretty tired. I mentioned before you came in here that this week I've been dealing with getting over food poisoning. I'm still trying to exercise a bit the past couple days, and I think that's been really making me drag. I also woke up at around 3 a.m. today, and it's 6:30. So I've been awake for about 3.5 hours, and it's like I'm tired, but I can't sleep. So let's see. You can do shell from Portal. that would show off your arms, which may be a problem because of the tattoos, or may benefit because of the muscle. I can't show my tattoos. I just can't. So I'd have to wear sleeves, which defeats the purpose, sort of. And Saturday, should I eat Doritos and beer? I'm assuming beer, or a healthy meal. I would eat the healthy meal first. And then that way if you, excuse me, if you still feel like having something, you can have some Doritos and beer, but you won't be eating more of it. Do you know what I mean? Because you'll already be full. That's my suggestion. You can also do like a taco salad that's pretty healthy, but then like crush a couple Doritos over it and then have a beer with that. That's another option. Or an alcohol-free beer. I want to leave planet Earth for another galaxy, can I? Not at this time period, but I think there are some different substances that can make you feel like that. You can't show your tattoos on YouTube or in school at the job. So I can't show them at school, but then because I've had students find my YouTube account, I also don't show them on YouTube anymore. Got my hair cut a week ago. The stylist turned out to be one of those, I won't take the vaccine. I do holistic stuff with detox chemicals types. Oh, goodness. Every time somebody talks about a detox, even when I was working at like a supplement place and people come in, I'm looking just to detox. I'd say, well, you know, I was issued a liver and a couple kidneys when I was born. So that tends to cover my detox. You know, and I just kind of I always talk people out of buying it just because it's a waste of money. It really is. So, you know, they'd either just be like, okay, cool, and just head out, or, okay, well, I'm here anyway, and I'm looking to do something else. Okay, cool, we can get you something that actually might help you achieve whatever goal you're going for, you know, rather than a detox, because there's a lot of ways to, because some people, they want to go on like a liquid fast or something. Okay, cool, I guess. You know, here's some, you know, powdered juice or something that might make it easier or whatever. That might, you know, be more helpful than something like a detox. It's just pooping. That's all. You know, get yourself some senna tea and psyllium husk fiber, and it's just pooping. I guess that makes it would, I think, Mulat. I actually cooked proper food today. Sausages, potatoes, carrots. It reminds me of something my mom used to make with kielbasa and onions and bell peppers. And then she'd cook it all in a pan and we'd have it with a big pile of rice. Is it okay to ask which food I like more, veg or non-veg? So that phrasing makes me wonder if you are Indian. Because I think that is typical for Indian English. But for me, typically, I am mostly vegan, honestly. You know, I will eat meat, but especially after that sushi, that made me have the food poisoning. Just not, I don't know, I'm kind of creeped out by it a little more. But there's a variety of reasons, and I guess I can go into them if you guys are interested, but there's a variety of reasons I eat mostly like vegan. There's like, you know, non-dairy milk in my tea and stuff right now too. Where are my glasses? Depends on which ones you're talking about. I have my migraine glasses here and here. Don't need those just yet. But with my other glasses for like reading and just seeing stuff, it's been harder and harder to wear those these days. So when the lenses cause me to focus, it tends to trigger migraines or exacerbate a starter migraine, which unfortunately I have because, again, I've been up since 3 and interrupted sleep tends to do that. So it's not great. This summer's been really bad for my migraines. Let's see. People try to say unvaccinated, healthy people that work out and eat right are better than unhealthy people that are vaccinated. Piss me off. I don't really know to say your thoughts. So I would ask by which measure are they saying healthy and better? You know what I mean? What is better? People have an idea that their immune system, as long as it's healthy and active, that it's okay. So there's a couple problems with that. The first one would be like with the H1N1 epidemic or pandemic that we had back in 1918, that exploited the healthy immune system. So that's one of the problems. The other problem is that even though you may not contract COVID-19, which is the disease, you can still carry SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus. And if you carry it, you can pass it on. So are you okay with passing this on to someone who's immunocompromised? So maybe these are unhealthy people that maybe cannot get vaccinated. You know, maybe they're on some kind of immunosuppressants for a medical condition, or they're very, very old and they haven't been able to physically get there. Are you okay with bringing that virus to the person and possibly killing them? You know, I do remind people that the reason that we live in society, like the whole purpose of society, was that we can work together and help each other. And so if they're not really interested in doing things that are socially responsible, perhaps they're better suited to just live in a cabin in the woods. You know, that's what I keep mentioning to them. Your sister got COVID in France. I hope she's okay. Is she getting good treatment at least? Hello, Josh. Remember one of your really old videos? They always say when they're talking in tongues, used to crack me up. No, it's Ode de Chandane. That's what it is. You're from India. Okay, good. I got it. Got you. Now living in the USA. Are you maintaining a vegetarian diet? Just out of curiosity. Pork sausages with mild mushrooms. UK does good sausages. They do. They do. I really like the blood sausage. I thought that was good. How often do you work out? I do try to work out every morning. I tend to wake up around 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I just try to work out every morning. I can sometimes with weights, or I have one of those stationary exercise bikes at home. It's nice to go to the gym, but especially during the pandemic stuff, you know, if I can't get there, at least I have some stuff that I can do at home. I've also been going to the golf gym. It's like a screen setup, so you can still do, you know, practice golf and stuff. But it's kind of like half VR, I guess, in a way. I don't know how to describe it, but you might know what I'm talking about. So those are the types of exercise I do. I have exercise bands at work as well. So sometimes if I have just some downtime, I will do that. Besides genetics and whatever genetic boost I have to it, one of the reasons that I think I've been able to be pretty okay with my muscle mass despite having medical problems is because instead of going like really hard for an exercise session, I kind of just break it up. You know what I mean? So if you do something like drink lots of water, so you have to pee very often, do 10 squats after you're done peeing. Through the day, you might do 100 squats, you know, that's still 100 squats. You don't have to just do 100 squats right after, you know, right together, you know, in like these 20 or 30 or 50 set increments and just do it all within, you know, a few minutes or something. So that is an option for people that find themselves to be too busy or just have some physical limitations. Joe Rogan got COVID and threw the kitchen sink at it, including steroids and a horse deworming medicine. Oh, goodness. Joe Rogan's interesting. In some ways, he reminds me of my brother. I don't know Joe Rogan very much, but from what I know, he seems to be very curious about a lot of stuff, but I think perhaps is too unwilling to, like, too biased against maybe, I guess, the establishment, whether that's the government or medical science or something. So it's not like impossible for him to understand what's happening, but I think he does have a pretty heavy bias against it from what I've seen. But I do appreciate that he's interested in learning about other stuff. But yeah, you gotta you got to find a balance, I think. Yeah. I agree we should make good use of civilization while we have one. Right, that's the whole point, isn't it? The gauges look great, thanks. Yeah, they're pretty good. They've been staying about the same size, which is good. They were kind of loosening or stretching out a bit, but I think they're pretty good. Yes, love veggies and fruits. Sometimes I cook ground turkey, that's about it. Don't have enough time to cut and cook fresh vegetables. I buy frozen and cook using my favorite Indian spices. I love frozen vegetables. I think they're great. And sometimes I'll just buy fresh vegetables on sale, cut them up, put them in the freezer, and then that way they're ready to rock and roll when I need them. So, yeah, if you don't have a air fryer, I do recommend an air fryer. That's really, really helpful. Still lapping people sitting on the couch. Yeah, you know, I tell myself that I might not see the results that I really want, but I'm definitely not going to get those results by not exercising. Hello, September. Hello, autumn. So how do you expect the epidemic development in your country and across the world? So it's a pandemic, just I misspoke too, and I said epidemic too. But yeah, we do have a pandemic. So if English is not your first language, the pandemic, it means it's that most people in the world are likely to encounter it. Whether they contract the virus or not, they're likely to encounter the virus. That's the WHO's definition. And then for an epidemic, it's an outbreak, so a lot of people are likely to encounter it within at least 2 countries. Yeah. Or at least 1 country, sorry. An outbreak is more local. As far as in Korea, I think we're doing pretty good with it overall. We're not having any issues with like people taking veterinary medicine. Everyone seems to understand that masks work and all of that good stuff. So, you know, it seems to be all right in that sense. A lot of people are getting vaccinated, which is also good. Hopefully, things will be a little more open by next summer. That's what I'm hoping. In terms of the rest of the world, I think it depends on which country you're in. There's a lot of devastating stuff happening in India, for example. Just the type of treatment and then the exposure to this type of black fungus. A lot of people are getting a really unique fungal, I guess a fungal infection, and you got to cut it out. So if you catch it early enough, you can cut out like the eye or the nose, but otherwise it'll go into your brain and just eat it up. Apparently that fungus is pretty common, but most of the time our bodies are able to fight it off. But with the type of medication that's used to fight off COVID and just the immune system issue that happens when you contract COVID, it makes you pretty susceptible to that. So, you know, what's India going to look like in a year? Don't know. In places like India, Israel, Saudi Arabia, the United States, that place this really overly kind, permissive approach to religion. So they allow these religious gatherings when you really shouldn't be gathering. You know, what's that going to look like? I'm not sure. Probably not very good. Hello, Nathan. Hello, Lee. I got COVID 10 days ago. My tinnitus got worse. Depressed. That's awful. Are you... I mean, did you have to go to the hospital or anything? I'll have to post a video about Jack Lalanne that I saw earlier. He was apparently the first diet and exercise guy of the modern era. Great fitness, well into his 60s and 70s. Oh yeah, Jack Lalanne was awesome. He did these like, what is it called? Not video. They were on TV, so you could just kind of exercise with Jack Lalanne. But he also in his later years, like in his 90s, he was still quite fit. So was his wife, and they were selling, I think they were selling juicers and stuff on infomercials. But I mean, Jack Lalanne, I didn't buy the juicer, but I felt like very, like of any juicer I've seen, I felt very like, oh, maybe I should buy this juicer because it's just because it's Jack LaLanne. You know what I mean? Let's see. Seemed like a calmer person than a couple of years ago. Great to see. I think since my migraines have gotten worse, so I just cannot afford to have a lot of emotional spikes because that causes blood to start pumping and that triggers a migraine. When I see you talking, it helps me be calm. Thanks. I'm glad, Mullah, because I know that sometimes we have some disagreement on some topics. So I'm glad that you're able to find at least some solace. Let's see. What do you think about individuals who are called sociopath because they're revolted, rebel, anti-conformist? I'm kind of like that, but I don't hate individuals. I just want to follow my own paths. So sociopath, that's like a specific psychological diagnosis. If you don't have any ill will towards people and you can still you want the best for them, you still care about them, you don't, like, you're not particularly callous in your approach, like you're not unfeeling to the pain of others, you don't act against other people. So it's like one thing if you want to be an individualist and in doing so you steal somebody's car, because you don't want to follow the rules or something. That's different. But if it's like, okay, well, I want to have a job that I like instead of what my parents tell me to do, and I want to dress the way I like instead of what society expects, that doesn't fall under sociopathy at all. Yeah. So you're not, I wouldn't say that you would be a sociopath just because you like doing things your own way or you question authority or anything like that. But if the things that you do because you question authority, those things start to cause harm to other people, then maybe get that checked out by a professional. Didn't get hospitalized, just had a severe headache and fever for 5 days. That sounds terrible. You said that your tinnitus got worse. Do you have any other side effects from that? Just out of curiosity. I heard an argument that the vaccine are going to hurt low-income neighborhoods the most, but I feel like that's propaganda against vaccinations. It would if the vaccine was expensive. You know what I mean? But I think it's free in a lot of places. It's free in Korea. I think it's free most places. The only thing that I can think of is the United States, unfortunately, and some other governments, they have experimented on people that are the undesirables of society in the past. And so this is where that skepticism or fear comes from some places, like from some communities. And I think it's something that people should be aware of and then explain how that's not the case. Perhaps by showing by example, like, hey, I'm not part of your community, but I got the vaccine, that's kind of thing. Some of my students were worried about getting vaccinated because they heard about the blood clots. And so I would tell them, it's better to get vaccinated than to not, even if the blood clots, even if we find they're totally associated with the vaccine and they did kill as many people as you say, it's still safer than driving to school, But that's one thing. That's one thing just to say it. So I got the vaccine and I let all of them know I got the vaccine. And I think that was, that shows a little bit more like I do believe what I'm saying. So I think if they allow, give some information on it and also maybe lead by example. Yeah. They had to recall the juicers. They were too powerful. The plastic couldn't hold in the motor. Oh my gosh, I love it. That's too bad. Sorry about your migraines. Wish you peace and tranquility. I have a loved one that suffers this. Yeah, they're not great, but I mean, like you said, it made me a bit calmer. So yeah. I am dizzy and everything smells awful. I'm really sorry to hear that. Are you able to put something like right here? Like a cream or something that might smell better? Sometimes when I'm having migraines that are bad enough that I feel like everything smells like vomit or urine or feces or something, I will put something right here or even right here specifically, like a cream perfume. Sometimes that can help. It's not going to make everything better, of course, but it might make things a little bit less terrible, maybe. The dizziness, yeah, there's not a whole lot you can do about that other than, you know, making sure you're hydrated and all of that, but even still, there's not a whole lot. So just really take it easy. You know, you're not lazy if you take it easy. You just need to take it easy. Yeah. Don't be afraid to sit down. If you are able to get a cane or some kind of mobility assistance, that would also be really helpful too, for sure. Let's see. I like individuals, but I hate society and government authority. I'm kind of an anarchist, libertarian. Um, yeah, and I mean, if you, there's nothing wrong with questioning or disagreeing with the government and other types of authority. But a good, maybe a better way to get an existence that might be less of a struggle might be to make changes or see if you can get other people to kind of rally around changes that you think the government needs to make. That might be a good way to do it. Sorry, but I want your opinion about the idea of the epidemic and not a comment on my language. So there are people that do watch my videos that they do speak English as a second language or third language. So they do like some of that feedback. It wasn't my intent to offend you or anything like that. It was just to clarify because there are there's some confusion about the terms, so that's why. So it wasn't necessarily you per se. It was just it came up, so I just wanted to take that moment. You're against the vaccine. Any reason that you're against the vaccine? Hello, SJ. It's free in Canada and the US, but the US has vaccine hesitancy is higher among the poorer communities. It seems the poor argument against vaccine passports. No, so the reason that they might be against in poorer communities, it's that thing that I had mentioned, where unfortunately the US government had done some pretty awful, unethical testing on poorer communities in the past. And I don't even mean the distant past. So that might be why they have some hesitancy with it. When you are in a group that the government never cared about and even made deliberate attempts to harm, and now the government again is telling you, hey, here's this thing you should do and put inside of your body, it's gonna remind people of some of the stuff that happened in the past, you know, and that's why it's good to have a healthy skepticism, but to get those fears addressed, you know, as opposed to, hey, should we always listen to what the government says and just leave that question there as the answer? Like we want to find the answer for that question, you know what I mean? Let's see. Yeah, you can use menthol or peppermint oil, like Nathan was saying. I find that to be too strong. For me, I use like myrrh or frankincense. So that's like a smell that I like, or like a Spanish amber, that kind of smell. That warm smell I tend to find very calming. So you can try peppermint oil, but I do find, especially if you're feeling especially sensitive to smells, then it might be too strong. So I might even do something like a soap. So if you don't have any cream perfume on hand, I would take like a bar of soap and just rub it right on this spot right above my lip. That might be a little easier. If you have dryer sheets, that might be something to do as well. Just kind of have that. You could also wear a mask and put something like that with the mask. So sometimes I'll put even flowers, like I'll put a rose petal or some lilacs or something that I walk past. I'll just put it into the mask. That can help too. So there's some different ways to approach it. Yeah, especially if it's too harsh to put right here, for whatever reason, you can put it on the outside of a mask, and it doesn't matter. It can be the N95 mask, it can be the fabric mask, so that kind of subdues the smell just a little bit. Let's see. I'm against forced vaccination too. I'm for vaccine passports. I mean, how do we mean by forced? Are we talking hold you down and force you to do it, or are we talking businesses have the right to refuse you service? You know what I mean? Did I have any side effects from the vaccine? The first one that I got, I had the mild COVID symptoms, which if those were mild, I don't want major COVID. It felt like all of my muscles had a severe sunburn, and I was so thirsty and I couldn't stop sweating. I was in constant pain, and because I was so thirsty, I had to keep getting up to pee, and because I had to keep getting up to pee, it just hurt every part of my muscles. I was shuffling around like a very elderly person. Yeah. In the last 35 years, I've never been to a doctor for any kind of sickness. If I get a cough, it goes away within a few hours. Fever, also ignore it, goes away by itself within a day or two. Guess it's okay. So one of the issues is, you know, as we get older, our bodies are less capable of dealing with some stuff in some cases. So there are people that say things like, well, I'm really obese, but I don't have diabetes, I don't have high blood pressure, those kinds of things. But it's that cumulative pressure and the cumulative effect on the body that once they get to a certain limit, whatever that limit is for their body, everything just kind of falls apart very quickly. And so in your case, you know, if you're finding that your sickness is tolerable and you're able to get rid of it pretty quickly, fantastic. Don't need a doctor. But don't hesitate to see a doctor if you find that there's a sickness that just feels, you know what, this is different. I think I'm more sick than I've ever been in my life. Don't think, well, I've always gotten over my sickness, so it'll be okay. Make sure to see a doctor if you find that you're having a hard time getting over a sickness compared to your usual ability to heal. Yeah. I'm trying to learn English. Exactly, yeah. So that's why I just wanted to let you know there was that difference between epidemic and pandemic. Even native speakers make that mistake, though. Wow, Hitler's mustache. You don't want to see lemons. That is, of all the things, like, go to an OnlyFans. I never understand the commenters like that. I just never understand. What about this setup says, oh yeah, you know, I should ask this person for some kind of sexual gratification. Like, there's a whole internet. Poor communities having higher rates of anti-vax is understandable. Other people using that as a reason to oppose vaccine passports when they are the same people pushing voter laws is hypocritical. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I would agree. There are people that are, you know, they're in a place of privilege, whether that is just the community they live in or the amount of money that they have. And they're trying to piggyback on like legitimate problems. I really hate when people do that. Yeah, just not a fan. Hello, Lou. Good point about the poor and their experiences. Haven't thought about that. Fist bump right back. It's really something that we have to keep in mind if we want to really help people. The same problem happens with like the Ebola outbreaks in parts of West Africa. It's like, historically, these are invading people that, you know, these white people show up, and that's never been good for anybody in your past. And I mean, even today, there's issues with Catholics lying about condoms causing AIDS and like making the AIDS epidemic even worse, right? And then you have these people that show up, and when they show up, they find someone in your town that's sick, they take them away, and then the person dies, and so you never see them again. You know, at least if they were home, you could bury them in the way that, you know, makes sense for your culture. You could have spent time with them. You could have, you know, the person didn't have to suffer and die alone, like you think the worst. You know what I mean? Imagine that. Imagine that you're not even able to really visit that person while they're in the hospital, and then those people tell you, yeah, by the way, that family member died. Okay, can I see them? No. Can I bury them? No, we took care of that. Like, how shocking would that be? Of course, if somebody else in your family gets sick, you're not going to say anything. Of course. How horrible, right? And so they need to have more of that transparency. And so they are doing different work, like getting people that are actually local to the area to, you know, the local doctors. They're also going to community religious events and having the doctors explain, hey, we're here. This is what we're doing. This is why, you know, we're not, you know, please don't worry and think that it's scary. If you want to visit the person, you can, but you have to take some precautions, and here are things you can't do while you visit, you know, and make it just a lot more transparent, as opposed to, oh, we're here to deal with an epidemic, and not even communicate with the people because you can't, you don't speak the same language, you don't care. All you're focused on is containing the spread of disease, and you don't really care how that happens. So it's, you know, if you want people to comply, you have to speak to them in a way that makes them want to comply, you know, and just, well, because I said so, that's never satisfying. Let's see, every rich person I know has gotten the vaccine, usually ASAP. Middle and lower income people are usually the ones that haven't. So if it were a conspiracy, it's to get the rich vaccinated. So if I was one of those people, though, I would think the rich are either lying to trick us to get the vaccine, or they got something that maybe helped them, whereas they're giving us something else. Do you know what I mean? So even this idea that, oh, I can see, you know, I could watch Bill Gates get the vaccine. How do I know that I'm getting the same thing he got? You know what I mean? So that's how deep that kind of thinking goes. They force us to do it indirectly by the COVID pass. You need it to travel. Think about it from a different perspective. Imagine there's a disease that somebody else has in another country, and instead of trying to get that disease treated, they come and visit your country and they bring that disease to you. How would you feel about that? That you could have had your country not have that disease as long as that person who traveled followed these basic directions, but instead they came and brought that disease over to you. Wouldn't you be frustrated and, to say the least, pissed off? Definitely. Wouldn't I would be, you know. They also force us to pass a criminal background check to get a regular passport. It's to protect society. Oh, definitely. Definitely. We don't want criminals traveling abroad. Oh goodness, the side effects of Moderna for me. I had about 35% energy the next day. The second, I had 5%, literally got out of bed to walk my dog across the street 4 times. Yeah, I was totally fine for, I don't know, 18 hours right after the AstraZeneca vaccine, and then just crashed at work. So I woke up, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm fine, you know, go to work, have my first class, and then suddenly, just rapid onset. And, but again, I told the students, you know, I'm still glad that I got this, because if this is mild COVID, I do not want major COVID. Let's see. You can choose to not get the vax. I support that, but your choice has consequences. I mean, that's true. If you want to practice medicine, you have to get a doctor passport, right? If you don't want to get the doctor passport, you don't have to, but then you're not allowed to practice medicine. Demand to see life's manager, take the lemons back, make it rude the day, cave I don't know the game, actually. I've never played Portal. But no, I don't have to do Shelf from Portal to take. I just have to point out how ridiculous it is. I feel, right? You know what I mean? It sucks I can't get the second jab. 4 months later, my WBC is up to 3.8. Is it a transportation availability? I mean, you can, choose not to say, but is there, what's the reason that you can't get the second jab? People distrust big business, such as big pharma, in some contexts, but trust them in a systemic way, like capitalism, and they usually do this in a negotiationist context rather than in a real critical sense. The distrust is justified, though. The rich do get privileges common people don't, which is as my previous statement. They see the issue, but they don't understand what the root cause is, and somehow this is channeled into a denialist mindset. I agree that the concept of big pharma, what a mess, what a tragedy that the United States has for-profit medical care. What a tragedy, absolute tragedy. Meanwhile, the rest of the developed nations are doing just fine with their absolutely covered medical care. You know what I mean? And then because it's so expensive artificially, it gives the people in the US a misunderstanding that medical care is expensive just by default. Therefore, if we covered it with taxes, we would be wasting so many tax dollars paying for it. But it's actually not that expensive by default. It's expensive because it is a for-profit business in the United States. So I think even if we got rid of that format, or, we can still do, you can still have your medication that is your choice to have it more expensive, right? You can get something that's covered by the medical care, like acetaminophen, or you can buy something at the, at a pharmacy over the counter. It's up to you. One of them is going to be cheaper, but you still have the choice. For me as well, some of my migraine medications are not covered, so I have to pay full price, but the full price isn't that much. We did get a new one called Emgality, which is horrifically expensive, and I couldn't believe it. I just thought, how dare they? How dare they? It's not like it's not like the price is so high because there's a chance to abuse this medicine. This is not it's not like a narcotic. It's a medication for people that have migraines, chronic migraines. And then they have the audacity to charge $500 per shot. How dare you? How dare you? So it's ridiculous. So I'm hoping over time that price will go down. But I just felt so, I don't know, targeted without being targeted. It was just more of like a how dare you moment. I was so excited to get this and try this medication. You get 1 shot, 2 shots to start with, and then 1 shot every month thereafter. And it's supposed to help with managing and preventing migraines. And I was so excited for it. I made sure to dress for getting a shot and stuff. And I was just very, it was exciting. And I went in and my doctor told me, hey, so I didn't order the shots because I wanted to ask you first. They are $500 each. And I had to double check because the Korean numerical system works differently than outside of Korea. So they count by 10,000s, and like $1 is about 1,000 Korean won. So when the doctor said it was 500,000 won, I thought he meant maybe 50,000 won, because that's still very expensive for medication in Korea. And he's like, no, And I repeated it in Korean, and he's like, yeah, that's the price. And then he showed me these text messages he had with the wholesaler, and he's like, I wouldn't charge you anything. I would just charge you the wholesale price, but this is the price. So do you want to do this? And I was just like, how dare they? How dare they? So, because I don't even know if it'll work, and I'd have to spend, you know, $3,000-$4,000 just to test it. How dare you? This is my. What are you working on a migraine medication for? If it's not to help people that have migraines, like what? So, that's my rant. Individuals are not responsible of any sickness or disease. I think if you know it is likely that you can have it, you are likely a carrier, and you bring it to a population that doesn't have it, I would say you should be held responsible. I would say so. Hello, Obyung. Glad you got power back. That's too bad. About 80% of the city still has no power. Are people coming to you, like to your home or anything, just to ask to charge their phones or anything? If not, you know, maybe that might be nice to help them out if they do, you know what I mean? Let's see. Don't worry, the global plague is dropping rich folks like flies, even double jab folks getting crippled. Pretty sure this virus is beating classism. Well, I mean, a lot of viruses do, but it's not a plague. Plague is actually a type of bacteria. I'm not sure if it's called a family. I'm not a biology person, but it's a bacteria for the plague. But I guess we do use it sort of loosely as a epidemic, but it is, yeah, just a pandemic, just to touch on that, because that's one of those things. But I do like that people are called, what, rat lickers or plague rats. So that's kind of fun. I haven't looked too much into it, but I heard the past black population was being experimented by doctors in the 1930s. I think it was syphilis. It was. There's also, even just today, improperly contained pig feces. So from these pig farms, like pig factory farms, not like some farmer with a dozen pigs. Their waste is put into like a pond, and it gets into the water for the people that are drinking it, and it also blows around. And so it's not just feces, but it's feces and any of the medicines, any of the any type of cleaning agents and stuff that are also used. So it's a lot of not great stuff, and like you can taste the air, and that's just not what you want. And of course the places that are being not targeted, but just the places that are living around these factory farms, these are people that have a lower income, typically black as well, but not always. So that's that's like one of the things that's still happening today. It's really unfortunate. The same thing also happens with mountaintop removal mining. So communities that live around there, again, very poor, although in this case traditionally white, they're also at a high risk of just all kinds of stuff. So the issue with like Flint and also the Flint water, again, that's a black community mostly. People just don't care. They still don't have healthy water to drink, but that's not the only issue in the United States. I mean, there's so many issues of people just having poor access to healthy, safe water. It's almost like all the stuff that the U.S. says about Russia or China, I feel that's what's going on in the U.S. It's like the U.S. is a developing nation that pretends it's a developed nation. That's just kind of how I feel about it. Are you still in Korea? Yes, I am. Took about 4 hours to get gas. A person got shot at a gas station. People's pumping gas a few feet away from the dying person. Oh my goodness. Please stay safe. Please stay safe. Maybe don't let people into your house to charge then. That might be... I was refused the second one because the first one annihilated my immune system. Gotcha. The real concern is the second one could kill me. Man, that's, I mean, that's the kind of thing, you know, somebody's saying, yeah, I don't care if somebody doesn't have a healthy immune system, then whatever, natural selection. I mean, really? Come on. Come on. In the States, my narcotic prescriptions are always cheaper than antibiotics or other drugs. That's terrible. $500 per shot, and how many shots in the course of a treatment? Continuous. That's the thing. You would just get them every month. That's it. Yeah. So there's no course. Like, it just is a ongoing thing. I completely understand this. I also have migraines, but what we have not only permits this kind of exploitative behavior, but also rewards it. Then we have people that do this not to help, but it's just profit over people's suffering. Yeah, I think it's just why, you know, why would you go into that? Go into something else if you just want to make profit, you know, go into like marketing or sales or work for Coca-Cola. You know what I mean? It's just, ugh. It's like those people that become doctors for social clout as opposed to wanting to help people. Like, what? You could do something else, you know? It's to me, it's disgusting. It's just really disgusting. Someone I was chatting with online mentioned to me they believe healthcare is not a right, it's a service. I disagree personally. Again, that person should go live in the forest by themselves. You know, what's one of the benefits of having a society, right? It's the fact that we can take care of each other when we inevitably have some kind of health problem, you know? We have extra food that we've stored. We have other jobs you can do. So if you get some kind of illness or physical disability and you can't go hunting or gathering, that's okay. You can still make baskets or bake bread or something along those lines. You can still contribute to society in a meaningful way. The fact that people just die from preventable, treatable diseases in places like the United States, how is that beneficial to society? Who wins there? I don't understand. Even the people that you were chatting with, or the person you were chatting with, that person's spending more money on healthcare, and they're losing other workers that maybe service them throughout the day. I mean, what's the purpose of that? Generally, the argument for medicine for profit is it drives innovation. Claim the government controlled it would make progress, but vastly slowly. Thus, some meds cost lots. I'm very happy with the part of the National Medical Care Fund, I guess you can call it, going to help those people that are developing medication. That's where they can get their money. But the idea that this is how I'm going to make my money, I mean, we've seen that innovation doesn't have to happen for profit. We've seen that in the past. So somebody that, I think it should be funded so the research and stuff that needs to get done can get done. I think it should be funded properly. But to just say, yeah, I got into, you know, pharmacology so I could make money. Gross. Gross. This is a service job. You know what I mean? You don't go in the military or become a firefighter so you can make money. Do you know what I mean? You do it as a service job. I don't know. Why am I not responsible of... It can also kill and make people sick. It makes no sense. You still live normally. But do I? Do I still live normally? And I think that's what you might be making the assumption that you're healthy. So because you feel like, well, I didn't contract it, therefore everybody else should be like me. But not everybody else is like you. And if you know that you're a carrier of a disease and you bring it to other people, knowing that you could prevent it, I would say that is quite antisocial. That's an antisocial behavior. Love my geography videos. Cool. Thank you. I'm glad. Why am I not responsible for the flu or bronchitis? I think if I have the flu, I should stay home. Do you know what I mean? If I have it, stay home, you know? And I do get vaccines. I do get the flu vaccine. Yeah, like Richard said here, if you're responsible for the flu, if you get it, you stay home and recover. Exactly. I don't have the flu, carry it, and just pass it on. Let's see. It was the U.S. Public Health Service's syphilis study of Tuskegee, classic example of bad medical ethics. It controlled experiment. Yeah. I got to know my neighbors better. A family of 8 will come to my house tomorrow. All my friends are on the road with FEMA money. How do you get FEMA money? Just curious. Is it just transferred? Is it something you have to apply for? Just curious how they do that, especially if you don't have like power or internet. How do you apply for it? Like, I'm just curious. The Flint water problem reaches my city. We had to get purifiers. That's gross. Hello, Paul. Hello, Ben. But others can contaminate me with their ideas and why they not stay at their home. But they shouldn't. They shouldn't contaminate you with their diseases. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm grateful that you have a good immune system now, but in the future that totally can change. I mean, and the rest of us, you know, not everybody has a really good immune system. If a person is a great surgeon, does it matter if they're doing it for selfish reasons, since their good surgery skills benefit society? If they're doing it for profit or status, what I mean specifically is if they're doing it for profit or status to the point that they won't help people that cannot afford it, that's when it's gross. That's when it's gross. I had a surgeon who became a surgeon because he wanted to have that status and that money, but he also understood that he could have done any other job with that. So if somebody couldn't afford certain procedures, he would just chop the price down. That's what he did. So that, yeah, totally fine, totally fine. But if it's something like, well, you know, I don't help people like this, or they have a bias against helping someone, or refuse somebody treatment that needs it, but because they can't afford it or something, they refuse them treatment. No, I don't think that's okay. That's what I'm talking about, it being gross. You're forgetting big mortuary. They'll make money. Yeah, again, this is like, it's wild. Like, a lot of this is just the US. Like, I think people don't realize that this is not normal. It's the same with like the wedding industry. It's not common in other countries. You know, I saw a comment, somebody said that it was bury me raw, you know. It's a problem for small businesses, super expensive to get a company health insurance plan, but employees need health insurance. It's killing US innovation. So again, it doesn't have to be done that way. It can be done where the US itself provides that national health care. That's what, you know, just like every other business, or every other country. Yeah. I suspect you're immune from being contaminated with ideas. I don't know. Possibly. No, I don't think so. I am, there are certain ideas that I am more likely to want to believe. There are certain ideas, yeah. I think that might be true for everybody, you know. It never ceases to amaze me how some of the right-wing Christians are so callous about human life that they accuse atheists of promoting social Darwinism. Yeah, exactly. Medical profiteers develop a morality against the poor. The underproductive should pass on. Seems a policy in some areas like Texas, the same arguments that mobsters make. You know, they're not even underproductive. That was one thing I tried to explain to my students when we have to talk about the rise of communism in history. And this idea of workers getting paid equally. And I've asked them, you know, well, how come we don't do that? You know, what do you think is the reason that a lot of societies don't do that? well, teacher, it's because a doctor does hard work and, somebody else that's not, they don't. And I was like, factory work is very difficult. Mining is very difficult. Even delivery driving, that's very difficult, especially during the pandemic. We've had drivers die of exhaustion on the job. A doctor, a lawyer, sitting in their office. Is that as physically difficult? No. Okay. So is it the school? They have to pay for school? Yeah, they got to pay for all that schooling. Cool. But, in a communist society, a lot of times higher education is paid for. So they just spend the time. Like, okay. So we get into it. And I'm not telling them, like, oh, communism's the best or anything. But the whole point is just to get them thinking, why do we think it's okay that we use this service? We like this service. We depend on this service. And yet we feel it's okay to pay these people so little that they're barely scratching by, I'm only responsible for myself, and every individual needs to be responsible for itself. What do you make about my freedom? That's like saying, so when you have a disease that is communicable and you knowingly bring it to other people, that's like saying, well, it's my freedom to shoot a gun. It's your freedom to hide. Do you know what I mean? You are actively doing something that you know will cause other people harm, and then saying, that's not my problem. It is your problem. You're the one causing the problem. So how is that you're not causing the problem? Do you know what I mean? If you're actively doing something that you know can harm other people, why are you doing it and saying, it's my right, it's my freedom to cause harm to other people? That's not your freedom. That's not your right to hurt other people. And if that's how you feel, then again, move and live by yourself. If you don't want to be responsible to other people in a society, do not live in a society. You can go live on your own. The world is bigger than the USA, yeah, but don't tell the Americans. My wedding cost 5,000 pounds sterling. My divorce cost 20 so far. Hi from Portugal. Bom dia. I know that much. Your freedom ends where your coughs enter the air that I have to breathe, right? You should care more about every individual's freedom more than common health and good. I would believe that it's my right to be basically safe around other people. That they're not going to drive drunk, that they're not going to throw knives into a crowded area, that they're not going to set places on fire and say, oh, it's my freedom to drive drunk. It's my freedom to throw knives. It's my freedom to set this place on fire. The reason you live in a society is to keep that basic health and safety. If you do not want to be part of that, that's your choice. Do not live in a society. Go away and live somewhere off in the forest or on a farm or something by yourself, or with friends that also share your opinion. Stress is real. And yes, Obyung, bye, be safe. And stress is dangerous, yes. Funny thing is that even in the Soviet Union, the workers were paid, not even in the Soviet Union, they were paid equally. You can find the people actually got paid more if they produced more. Our difference is they owned their place of work, right. The ideas behind it is what we're saying. I do mention that communism has like, this is what we want, and then this is what actually happens. We talk about like how China is not communist technically. They've got an interesting mix. I'd say North Korea is more communist than China is, but they're also a theocracy. This is a weird analogy. How is it a weird analogy? You're saying that you want the freedom to do things that cause harm to other people, and who cares if those other people get hurt? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Nurses' assistants probably have the most difficult job in medicine, but get paid the least. I say this as a former nurse. I believe it. All skill sets are not the same value. Thus, pay rates are different, easier or cheaper to train a competent driver than a competent doctor, regardless of who pays for that training. Thus, we get more for the doctor than the driver. Totally. I'm not, again, so I wasn't saying that I believe in communism or that I'm a communism advocate. I just pose these questions to the students so that they can think about why things are done the way they are. Is there a better way? Or is that other way objectively worse than what we have? My only issue is people not getting paid a living wage. Yeah, like even in the military in the United States, there's families that were on government assistance and food stamps in the military. Why are you not paid enough money? You know, that's the idea that I was talking about. Don't set a badger loose in Walmart. Yes. Or a mushroom. The U.S. seems to have adopted brutality and greed as the foundations of ethics. That's true. We can live freely, to each his own, in a free world with no duty, no obligation. So again, if we go back to the start of society, that was for us to live together to help each other. If that's not what you want to do, you have to go away from the society, because otherwise you're going to be living off of the benefits of society, but making no contributions to it in the way that people would expect you to make contributions. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like an unwritten contract. And you're saying, I don't want this contract, but I want all the benefits that come with it. But I don't want to participate and do my part. So if you're not willing to do your part, then you shouldn't be willing to take part from it. Do you see what I'm saying? So again, you can have that thought, but I'm saying if you're not willing to focus or at least have people's basic health and safety as part of a goal in your mind, don't live in a society, because that's what other people are expecting. And you're benefiting from that while not contributing to that. And so that's the problem that I'm mentioning here. Let's see. Maybe it's too controversial to talk about, but have you heard about the Texas abortion ruling? I've heard that it happened, that an abortion ruling happened, but I haven't heard what it was specifically. China is nationalized capitalism. How can we do capitalism in a way that to our people gains the most in relation to a worldwide scenario? Yeah. Lemon, you have become aggressive toward me. I'm not. I'm just explaining. I'm not alienating you or judging you. I'm just saying, if you don't want to participate in society, don't take the benefits of society. That's all. It's like you show up to work to get paid, but then you don't work, but then you still want people to pay you. You're benefiting from other people's health and safety mindset. Do you know what I mean? You're benefiting by being safe because other people are considering you, not you particularly, but you as another member of society. So for you to say, cool, I like that benefit, but I don't want to contribute to that myself, then you're just sucking up benefits. Do you know what I mean? You have to actively contribute to the society. And if not, you're just sucking up benefits. Yeah, that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. I mean, people have a right to just being basically healthy, that I should be able to go out in public and not worry about contracting a deadly disease, especially if the person knows that they can carry it and that person has access to prevent it and then refuses to do that and still goes out openly to spread that disease. I mean, how is that different from any of the other things that I was saying? So I don't think it's aggressive to say you are being selfish. And if you want to be selfish, you can, but just don't do it in a society, because the society inherently requires that we have a level below selfishness. You can still have an individualist mindset by doing things that you want to do, as long as they don't hurt anybody. But if you want to not care about hurting people and you say it's your freedom to cause harm and death to other people, you probably don't belong in society and you should live out somewhere else by yourself. Yeah, like Seabird said, I'm just talking to you. I'm not yelling at you. I'm not aggressive. I'm just explaining the purpose of a society. You're not meeting the social contract. And if you don't want to meet the social contract, that's up to you. But again, don't live in the society. It's exactly the same again. Showing up to work, expecting a paycheck, but not wanting to do all your work. People working a service job still deserve fair compensation, right? If you don't care about other people, all right, I'll let my dog run around. It can poop in your yard. If you guys are interested in communist examples of society, at the revolutionaries in the Philippines and India, they are even critical of China and North Korea. Well, I'm sure they would be, yeah. Knowingly spreading a disease could be argued as a form of terrorism. I don't know if it's terrorism because, well, I guess it could, because it falls under ideology, doesn't it? It's my belief that I should be allowed to do this, but I don't know if it would qualify. As an American, I see we're a perfect blend of Klingon and Ferengi. We are warlike profiteering at 100% about limiting the rights of women. Oh my God. And I'm just hoping we can be a little bit more Vulcan. That's all. Some Americans today think freedom means being able to ignore the social contract whenever they want. And yeah, I agree. And there's plenty of wonderful places in the United States, gorgeous places, to go live separate from society if that's what you want. And you can. They're really beautiful, pristine, clean, peaceful places. So it's not like I'm saying, you know, you should be ostracized and exiled and go off in the wilderness and die. You know, go out, you know, be self-sufficient, you know, grow your food, catch your food, hunt your food. You know, you can kind of sell it to sort of participate in the exchange of goods, like for trade, so that way you can make some money, so you can still afford some goods that you'd like, but you're not causing any potential of like that harm to other people if you're not interested in keeping people safe. You know what I mean? So if it's just like, hey, I'm just paying my bills, or occasionally going to get some supplies like for a first aid kit or something like that, yeah, absolutely. If that's what you want, a purely transactional approach to society, then you should live by yourself, or, you know, again, you don't have to like be exiled and alone. Find some friends that are also interested in living this way. Go live out in the forest. You know, again, the US is so gorgeous. There are so many ways to live off the grid, live by yourself. And I would assume the same is true in other places, like where Mulat lives. I believe it was Egypt. You know, go off and do that. Absolutely. But don't be in a society and violate the social contract and say, I deserve this and it's my right to violate the social contract. Like it's not. That's not how that works. Stop. I'm an egoist and you piss me off. So Mullah, you can be pissed off, but again, the best way to do that would be, or to explain yourself would be to show me where my thinking is erroneous. So where am I making the mistake? You're part of a society, but you're not participating in the social contract. You are taking from society and harming others, and okay with that. So why not just move somewhere else so you can be by yourself or with people that think like you and not cause that potential harm to society? Which part of that is upsetting to you? I'm not telling you that you have to get vaccinated or that you have to care about other people or anything like that. I'm saying if that's how you feel, then you shouldn't be in society and benefit from that social health and safety while refusing to contribute to it and believing it's your right to violate it. Like that's where it's not okay. Some Americans today, no, we've read that already. No abortion after 6 weeks or a heartbeat. Don't most people not even realize they're pregnant by that time? Selfish people all over the place, and they don't know that they are. Yeah, that's true. I am a free individual. The world doesn't belong to a society, neither to anyone. Okay, and so don't belong to a society. That's what I'm saying. That's all. Well, why is that Like, what about this do you disagree with? If you want to do things that cause people harm, then you shouldn't be in a society that focuses on people's safety. That's all. My wife is Filipina. Cool. What's her lumpia recipe? I'm gonna see if it's similar to my family's. Do you know what would change American capitalism in drastic ways if the workers shared how much they made with their fellow employees? Yeah, you know. Unabomber lifestyle, it's a joke. I don't think it's a joke. I mean, I agree with what Ted Kaczynski did in his lifestyle choice, not with his bombing choice. He really resented society, so he went to live by himself, you know? And if he just did that, who cares? You know what I mean? He's living the way he wants to live, interacting with people only when he feels like it in a very transactional way, and then going back to being on his own. Cool, you know? The only negative, obviously, was terrorist stuff. But I think he had the right idea. If you really hate society, then go live off, you know, in the beautiful, peaceful woods by yourself. Every individual has the freedom to defecate anywhere, everywhere in their own home, but you don't have the freedom to throw it in the streets. Right. There are people who take from society, contribute nothing, and are celebrated. People who inherit lots of money. That's true. I really agree with that. Would Mullah use fire, ambulance, police, the ER, etc.? Am I into astrology? What's my sun, moon, and rising? I'm not into astrology. I'm interested in it in a like I'm interested in mythology, but I'm not like participating in it. Yeah. The vast majority of women don't realize they're pregnant until after that. Yeah, and so I mean, what's the point? You know, is Texas hurting for people? That their population is suffering, they need this. I don't understand what the point is. The other thing I really don't get either is like minors in some other states are denied abortions on the grounds that they're too immature to have an abortion. So you can have a whole baby, that you're mature enough for a whole baby, but not for an abortion. I don't believe in just having more children just because. Do you know what I mean? I don't get that. Not everybody is, you know, you can consent to sex without consenting to pregnancy, just like you consent to go out without consenting to getting COVID, but you may get COVID, right? So you do what you can to prevent it. You might get it. So if you get it, does that mean you shouldn't get treatment because it's your fault for interacting in society? No, we give people all kinds of treatments for things. If you drive without a seatbelt, you know the consequences could be pretty bad. Do we deny people medical care for that reason? Because, oh, well, you should have known better. If you didn't want to get into an accident, you shouldn't have got behind the wheel. No, of course not. So how come this one thing, we deny people the treatment for that? It just seems very arbitrary. Also, more heavyset women know that they're, even later, that they're pregnant. Yeah. Astrology is magic and false. Well, I think magic would depend on magic versus magic with a K. But I don't think, I would say magical thinking, because magic would imply that there is something to it. Authoritarian anti-democratic respects really turn me off in communism, even though I find myself agreeing with a lot of its points. Yeah, and I asked the students too, you know, what do you think is the ideal government? Because good luck. It's because Texas has a high evangelical culture. Oh, I know that's the reason. It's just such a nonsense reason. I see the Texas abortion issue as a symptom of U.S. decline. Lol at the maturity thing. Right, I mean, because then who's going to take care of the baby? Okay, well, you could always put it up for adoption. Okay, cool, but then what? You know, who's taking care of the baby then, right? So I don't know. I really think we don't, I think we have too many people in a lot of ways. Like, we need to figure out how to deal with the people we got. You know, we don't need to just keep It's like I feel like it's, you guys ever play the game Lemmings? And you're like trying to deal with the lemmings that are already out. Like, no, you can't, no, you guys are falling off the thing, don't die, don't die. But then like, stop coming out, lemmings, let me just deal with the lemmings I already have. But the lemmings just keep coming out of that like door, you know what I mean? That's what it feels like. It's like we're dealing with all these problems and we're just still like pumping out more kids, and I just don't see why. I just don't. I think a lot of people that have kids never should have had kids. Let's see. It also happens in free capitalist systems that there's issues with democracy. I think the best way to understand that is from a class perspective. Democracy is the ruling class. Means a dictatorship from the dominated class. It can be. I mean, I know in the US there's the senators make laws for themselves that are super wonderful, like free medical care and retirement plans and all of that good stuff, but then the average person doesn't get that, you know. Plus, pregnancy changes a woman's body. Adoption won't change that. That's true. And it's not even for purely aesthetic reasons, but even if it was, you know, would you want to have your body hijacked? You know, for me, I would just be in a world of pain the entire time. I wouldn't be able to work. I can't even imagine being pregnant. Lemmings showing your age. Yeah, I know, right? No glasses. I hope that means negligible migraine. So no migraine glasses. Yes, but the no, I need these to read glasses. That means migraine simmering. We're in like pre-migraine, the step 0. There's a non-step, which is I don't think I'm gonna get a migraine today, but there's a step 0, which is like, things are tensing up, so that's why I can't do that. I tend to have like, I have the contrast different, and then you guys can see me zooming in my face sometimes too, just to read the comments. There's been nurses in the US quitting of compassion fatigue. They're tired of treating the unvaccinated, for sure. Ever wonder why abortion is illegal but impregnation is not? How would we regulate that, I guess, is the idea. Yes, I believe that 6-week-old is now a person separate from the mom, even though it's inside the mom and thus has rights, so they made this law. Not my position. Oh, okay. More magical thinking. Right. There was, I think it was Matt Dillahunty who made the argument about organs, how you have to consent to having your organs donated even though you're dead, right? And these are life-saving organs. And if you don't consent to it, then we recognize that the corpse has bodily autonomy. But if you don't want to donate your body to housing a growing fetus, that's not a right. It's just very strange. There was an argument I've heard too that if men could get pregnant, this already would have been legalized. So the proletarian dictatorship is proletarian democracy, but the dictatorship for the bourgeoisie democracy is democracy for the bourgeoisie, Bezos, Musk, and the dictatorship for the working class. I agree. It's very, what's that phrase? It's like, that just seems like communist dictatorship with extra steps or something, right? Amazing how many pro-life people out there are pro-death penalty and pro-war, or anti-social, like anti-socialism, right? How can you be pro-life and then anti-medical care as a national right? You know. Adoption still leads to back pain and headaches. I agree, absolutely. My friend, post-brain cancer, calls it a level 1 seizure. I don't know if it's, I don't know. I've never had a seizure. I know that physically they're different, but I don't know if a seizure is painful. I'm not saying you have to get injected, but if you don't get popped with this needle by people who hate you and should have been caught in innumerable lies, then you should go live like Kaczynski. So this, folks, let's see. So folks that think we're overpopulated tend to have a problem with the unvaccinated. Why everyone thinks that they're good enough to choose who gets pruned. So first of all, I'm not saying that the unvaccinated should die, or that I'm choosing who gets killed. I'm saying we shouldn't just keep having children, especially if you are mentally, financially, or physically incapable of really raising a good child. That's completely different than saying the people that are alive, we should kill them because I disagree with them. And then again, here is that thing that we actually mentioned about the people who hate you and have been caught in innumerable lies. This is what causes that fear of getting vaccinated. So we need to address like the issue itself. So why are people afraid of it? And then also let's look at the vaccine, and is the vaccine dangerous? Just because somebody is a really bad person and they suck at their job doesn't mean the vaccine automatically is dangerous. And additionally, this is like very US centric or very UK centric, and Canadian centric. I've noticed those three groups specifically. Whereas like other places that are developed nations, most people just recognize this is a vaccine and let's get it, because we've seen how great vaccines are in the past. We're just going to do this one too. So I feel like you are, I'm not going to say putting words in my mouth. I mean, I think it is, but I think that some topics are so hot button that when you try to talk about them with any level of nuance, it can make people kind of shut down and like go into the, I think about it like the brain having boxes. And so if we've always heard this extreme idea A or opposing extreme idea B, and we hear somebody's opinion, we try to put them into that box that we already have. But when somebody tries to do something that has a little more nuance or isn't really even what either extreme opinion, we still try to lump it into the extreme opinion. And I think we need to get used to making like the other box, like the nuance box, or I'm not sure if this really is extreme opinion A or B. I'm not going to put it into either box and see, you know, what's being said. So again, I never said let's kill people. I never said the unvaccinated deserve to die. I never called this a pruning, that we should kill off the existing individuals in society. And yet that's what you accuse me of, just because I said that if you're not ready to have children, you shouldn't have children, right? That I don't see how the two are at all equal. Do you see what I'm saying? Let's see. Why isn't impregnating a woman who doesn't wish to be pregnant illegal? Why is the woman to blame for getting pregnant to the point that she's forced to carry? This would definitely be back to those Judeo-Christian kind of, and also, I guess, Abrahamic ideas, that a woman is inherently bad for having sex. Therefore, and a woman's job is to produce babies. So therefore, if she has sex and doesn't want to produce a baby, this is like totally against my worldview. Like that's the thinking. People holding seemingly contradictory positions are common. High probability everyone has this in the chat, except me, of course, right? What are your guys' contradictory opinions? Just out of curiosity, let's hear it. My contradictory opinion, what could it be? I'm trying to think of anything specific. You know, it's like when you're on the spot, like it's hard to think. It's like when you have to think quickly, it's like your brain like hiccups and you just kind of forget. Trying to think of one. I don't know. When you guys say yours, maybe I will be able to think of one. Yeah. I can have a contradictory opinion for myself, I would say. It's good to rest when you're not feeling good, but for me, I tend to wake up early and exercise, even if I feel like crap. Let's see, I often have arguments with myself, says Richard. Yeah, I would That's good, though. No, you think the unvaxxed shouldn't live in society, though? I didn't say that. I was talking to Mulat specifically about his specific belief. That's what I was talking about. I wasn't talking about people in general. I was saying, if you know you have a disease and you are bringing it to another country where perhaps they don't even have that disease or that much of that case of that disease, and you're actively doing that despite the fact that you could prevent that, I would say that is antisocial. That's what I would say. And how would you manage people having too many kids? It's ending their lineage one way or another, semi-genocidal. So again, we're bringing up those like really inflammatory words. I mean, that's the issue, is how would we prevent that? And again, this would be very like, people would find it very meddling. So I don't think that my opinion on it is realistic, but people create a lot of very awful home lives for their kids. And they believe, well, I'm the parent, I know better. They think that it's their right to treat their child terribly, to abuse their child, to deny their child access to basic things they should have access to, just because of the parent's opinion. And I don't think that's good for society. Do I have a solution for that? Not a viable one. I'm just saying, I don't think that's good for society, that people who are going to harm children end up having children. I don't think that's good for society. I'm not saying that therefore we should murder everybody and we should kill everybody and force sterilization, which is what it kind of seems like you're trying to insinuate that I'm saying. I'm just saying, without any additional thing there, it's really bad that we have people who believe they're so entitled to reproduce that they will do it even though it will cause harm to their child. I think that's incredibly selfish. How do we fix it? Your guess is as good as mine. But that's what I'm saying here. And if the unvaxxed, I mean, I think the unvaxxed would be happy to live in their own society where they can do what they like. Not even that they shouldn't live in society, they can make their own separate society if that's how they want to be. The whole point of living in a society is to focus on public health, to provide a safety net for people. And if you don't want to contribute to that, you don't have to, but you shouldn't be in the society that's providing that while actively refusing to participate in it. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand why people do that. If you are so against it, why don't you go live with other people who are like-minded? Every individual who likes society rules, state servitude, work slavery, capitalism, or working social class should die with the government in a war of... Every individual who likes society's rules says that the government... No, what are you talking about, Mulat? I have never heard that in my life. I'm anti-war, but pro-defense capability. Right, yeah, that's a good point. That I hate war, but also war happens, and so we should be able to defend against it. All lives matter except those I oppress. Oof. If you had a contradictory opinion, your brain often doesn't realize it. That's kind of true. My contradictory opinion is that freedom of the press is a fundamental right, and spreading harmful lies should be punished. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, right? I would agree with that. I think I mentioned before that I have a designated conspiracy theory. The duck-billed platypus actually doesn't exist. It's fake. Inspired by chat topics, medical research is best driven by individuals, driven by selfish motives rather than the government-guided. But I think basic medical care should be free. That's interesting. I love everything that you say is so considered. I wish I had that patience. I think the teaching is definitely helping with that. Children are young adults, and we need to teach them how to, sorry, this jumped, express themselves safely and wholly. Maybe you've been away from America for too long. There's an outright hatred for people who don't trust the vaccines, and there's no clear line of where the social contract ends. I would agree with you there, for sure. The longer I'm away from the US, the less that a lot of the arguments make sense. So, like, for example, masks being a political statement, that's mind-blowing. But I think for people that live there, it makes sense to them. Yeah, I would definitely agree with you there. Yeah. So I don't hate people that don't get the vaccines. I think it was before you jumped in, but I was mentioning that there are people who don't trust the vaccines because the government itself has proven itself untrustworthy to certain communities. As a result, we shouldn't just say, well, those people are stupid and they should deserve to die, or force them to get the vaccine against their will by tricking them or something. I don't think we should do either of those things. That we have to talk to them in a way that addresses everything they're worried about. It's like, there's a difference between like a scientist and a science communicator. Do you know what I mean? And I think we need those communicator type of people to go attend these city hall meetings and receive all the questions and address them in an open and honest way. I don't think that they should be demonized. I don't think they should be hurt. But I think assuming you have all the information and you decide, well, you know what, my immune system's healthy, I'm going to refuse the vaccine, even though I know that it's going to keep other people safe and I know it poses no harm to me, just ideologically, I'm against it. I think those people should live on the outskirts of society. That's what I'm saying. Because they're benefiting from the fact that other people are getting the vaccine and lowering their risk for it, lowering their children's risk for it, while they and their children are contributing to the virus not being eradicated. So they're willing to be part of the benefit of other people doing that. But this is for like a very specific group of people who, again, understand the vaccine is safe, understand the purpose of the vaccine, but ideologically they just say, I don't even care if other people die. That's natural selection, and my body is capable of dealing with this stupid virus, so too bad for everybody else. Those people are the ones that I'm saying are antisocial. But I don't think most people that avoid the vaccine are antisocial. I think most people that avoid the vaccine are really wary of the government, which I think is warranted in a lot of cases. I don't think you should just believe everything just because the government says so. There's so much in history that tells us that not to do that, right? But I think we need to work as a society, we need to work very hard to understand those people's concerns and then address them without being cruel or dismissive. Some people have asked me, you know, why are some people believing in a flat earth? Because that's so stupid. Are they really just that stupid? And I tell them it has nothing to do with education. I mean, to an extent, but not by itself. It's like a personality type. And if you're able to have that time to really sit down and address all their points without coming off like a know-it-all or telling them, well, if you paid attention in physics class, you know, those kinds of condescending statements, and really just said, hey, you know, here's what it is. We can do some of the experiments. We can check it out. We can see how the experiments were done. We can test it ourselves. Let's do that and really get together and do that. I think that a lot of the people who have that flat earth belief, that belief would go away. We don't do that because believing in a flat earth doesn't pose any social harm. But I think being really wary or not believing in the vaccine, that does pose a social harm. And so I think there should be like another effort, like a side effort or another prong of attack, for, if you will, to really communicate with people, not to talk at them, but to communicate with them and calm their fears. That's what I'm saying. So I was just talking specifically to Malatya, but I agree. It might have to do with the fact that I'm away from the U.S. Reality is contradictory in itself. Contradictions move our history forward. There's no contradiction in interest. People in different factions without aspects of our personality. What's the difference between magic and magic? So with the K, it's actually, sorry, I should have said it's with the CK. So it's magic, like that. Magic is like breaking the laws of physics and thinking you have like supernatural abilities. Magic with the CK is just studying stuff that other people don't study and learning about those things and how they can apply to your life. So stuff like learning, oh, okay, my stomach hurts. I can take ginger for that. Oh, I don't like ginger. Okay, well, you can take peppermint for that. You know, something along those lines. Understanding how to talk to people. So like an enchantment on somebody's thinking, or to convince someone to do something when they were originally against it. That is just like an understanding of psychology and how to interact with people. So that would be a type of magic. So it's really just studying and getting good at stuff that most people don't really care about. That's what it would be. A good example would be a tea that I made for a coworker who just was really coughing a lot pre-COVID. And I asked the coworker later, hey, how did the tea work? And the coworker said, it worked like magic. Like that's the kind of thing. Like, oh, I didn't know this, because it's like, what's that quote? Any unknown or sufficient technology is considered magic to a society that doesn't have that. I forget exactly how the quote goes. You guys probably know what I'm talking about, though. So to me, it's not magical. It's just I learned about these herbs and stuff, so I made the tea. But to somebody who doesn't know anything about it, oh, it's a pouch of herbs and somehow my throat magically feels better. So that's the magic with the CK. I think people still call it that just for aesthetics, because why not? Why not? Just for fun. Let's see. I don't like all the rules. I agree. We should always reevaluate the rules. I think we should do that regularly, maybe like once a year. On topic of having low viability children, genes are selfish. Your kids are only half you, so best to keep pumping them out and hope one survives. Well, we don't have to worry about that in a modern society, though, right? We know that if you have a child, the mother is likely to not die, and the child is likely to live into adulthood. So we know that we don't have to just keep like spamming kids in hopes that one of them becomes an adult. Don't mince my words. I'm not trying to. I feel like you're the one saying, like, accusing me of saying things that I've never said or thought. So hopefully that explanation that we had kind of cleared that up. There are cities where there's more black babies aborted than born. That's not going out and slaughtering people. Like you make me say, well, you said that. You said pruning the society and that the vaccinated deserve to die. That you accused me of saying that. But it's borderline genocidal. So if I was a doctor and a pregnant black woman came into my gynecology units and I caused her to have an abortion without her consent, I would say yes, that would be borderline genocidal. If I am a black woman and I know that I should not be having kids for whatever reason, and I choose to abort the pregnancy, then I don't see how that's a genocide if I'm the one choosing that. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't want to say any more about that just in case, yeah. But yeah, I guess, the source would be good, but even assuming the source, was there, again, if it's not somebody else causing the abortion without the consent of the mother, and I'm not saying this isn't impossible, but what usually happens is sterilization, not abortion. So First Nations people, for example, in Canada, some of them are, they'll have their child and then they'll be told, you cannot have, like, we won't let you see your child unless you agree to be sterilized, because you, for whatever reason, don't fit into whatever bracket of what, I don't know how they convince them. But they're still doing forced sterilizations in places like Canada as recently as 2019. So that, yeah, I would definitely agree. That's a type of genocide. But if you as a woman recognize, I am not fit to be a mother. I'm choosing to terminate the pregnancy. I don't see how we could say that's genocidal. And so forcing women who don't want to have kids to have kids, I don't see how that's like a better solution. And this is the unvaccinated people's society. They were building it, contributing to it, sacrificing just like everyone else. Why don't the vaccinated just make their own society? Well, the vaccinated are the majority, I would say. And these societies exist as they do because of the past vaccines. So we don't have polio in modern developed nations anymore. We don't have smallpox around the world, those kinds of things. So they are benefiting from the fact that vaccines have been given. They're benefiting from vaccinations. Many of them were vaccinated as well, like as children. They benefited from not contracting measles, for example. But they're the ones bringing and reigniting those problems again, giving their kids measles by not vaccinating them, even though they're vaccinated against measles, for example, because measles, unlike smallpox, hasn't been eradicated. So these kids are susceptible to getting it, and then they can pass it on to kids that haven't been vaccinated for any other reason. So these are the problems. They're actively causing problems by harming other people in society from their choice. And again, if you're not it's not just being unvaccinated. If you're not vaccinated for medical reasons or age reasons, of course, that's part of why the people that are qualifying to get vaccinated should get vaccinated to protect those people. So to say, well, we know this works and I've benefited from it and I live in a society that's benefited from it, but I choose not to do it even though I know that my child's going to die from whooping cough, for example, or get measles and die from that and pass on measles to any of the other kids in this class that aren't vaccinated. How is that a personal choice? Is what I'm wondering. I guess that would be my question. How is that a personal choice, or how is that not antisocial? Let's see. The equitable solution. Sorry, this jumped down again. To increase the taxes or health insurance prices for the people who refuse the vaccine, so at least they pay for the extra medical costs they create, I guess. But again, other people like Summer, who wasn't able to get their second vaccine because of their immune system issue. Summer doesn't consent to receiving, to being exposed to this just because another person who's totally capable of getting the vaccine decided against it for unscientific reasons and decided to still go out and participate in society. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so they pay more for medical costs. Do they pay for Summer's medical costs? Do you know? I can understand people having distrust of things surrounding COVID. Fauci's self-admitted lies are just one things that cause distrust. I was curious about the lies. I couldn't find them. I think we looked at it in the Patreon. But if you guys are able to share those, yeah, absolutely. And I agree. Again, we need science communicators. We need to address people's concerns. So it's not like they're stupid people that don't want to get vaccinated. We can say, yeah, it's not for a scientific reason, but we need to understand why they don't want to get vaccinated and then address those concerns. I'd argue that any belief that doesn't align with reality has the potential to create social harm. It can, but it's more of like the degrees away from that, right? So if I believe in Jesus and I believe that Jesus can cure medical problems, but I also believe that Jesus's way to cure medical problems is also the doctor and medication, that maybe isn't going to be harmful. But if I believe in Jesus and I believe that he heals, and so I actively do not take my children to get medical care, and when I see somebody getting medical care, I take it upon myself to be a good Christian, in my opinion, and don't give them the medication they need if I'm a pharmacist or something along those lines. Yeah, that would be actively causing harm, but we need that like progression, right? But there's a deadly virus and you could get the vaccine, but you're choosing not to, and it's not for a scientific reason. that immediately, like, there's an immediate result. We don't have to go down those steps, if that, like, the 6 degrees of separation or whatever. Hopefully that makes sense. It's harder than you think to do these live streams, because you have to come up with something, you know, while you're talking to people. You guys get a second to, like, type, erase, retype, you know. Yeah, what about my right to spread disease? That's basically what's being asked about, yeah. Even if you're vaccinated, you can still contract and transmit the disease. In fact, in Israel, about 75% of the infected are vaccinated. You can, so you can still get infected. We talked about this in a different live stream. I forget which one, but it's basically, we were talking about the vaccine as like a bulletproof vest as opposed to a safety bubble. It's like a seatbelt in a way too. Is a seatbelt going to protect you against a lot of different types of accidents? Yes. If you drive your car and there's a tornado and the tornado blows a tree and the tree hits your car and it puts a branch through your face and you die, did the seatbelt protect you? No. But does that mean because the seatbelt can't 100% protect you that you shouldn't wear the seatbelt? No. And so for people that can still contract and transmit the disease, the ability for them to do that is a lot lower. So it protects them personally, but it also makes it more difficult for them to contract the disease and then to spread the disease. Are they still able to do it? Yes. But does that mean that it's ineffective or that we are as effective? Like it's equivalent to, well, you know, not having the vaccine? No, it's again that bulletproof vest or that seatbelt analogy. It's not 100%, and nobody said it was. And I think that's one of the things, again, that a science communicator would be helpful with, is nobody's saying if you get the vaccine, then you're 100% protected. But people are acting surprised that you can still transmit the virus if you get the vaccine. So nobody ever said that it's not, you know, that's 100%. Magic sounds like social skills mixed with herbalist skills. Yes. Yeah, it was Arthur C. Clarke. I just forget exactly how he had phrased it. No, but it seems that many seem to think it stops transmission, which it does not. So again, reduces, but doesn't stop it. And also with Israel, I mean, Israel has, you said about 75% of the infected are vaccinated. But Israel also has the highest percentage of vaccinated people, right? So if we were to look at a society like the US or like India, and we look at the higher percentage of people that are contracting and dying from the disease, it's not the vaccinated. So that's something we should also consider. Of course, Israel, they have the highest rate of vaccination. Of course, a lot of the people that are going to contract COVID are going to be the vaccinated, just because Israel's the one with the highest vaccination rate. At least last I checked. I've been thinking about this all the time. If I knew what my contradictory opinion was, I would already have resolved the conflict, but I'm sure there's something irrational I believe. Yeah, I'm trying to think of one. One that I do, I guess, you know, just because I was thinking about my tea. I tend to avoid animal products, but for some reason I'll buy cheese sometimes. I don't know why. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Thank you. That was it. I knew you guys knew it. Let's see. Sorry, we were just trying to catch up. Every time I try to scroll down, it will jump for some reason. So it jumps all the way to the end. I have to go back up. Let's see. Continue the interesting chat, folks. Time for bed. See you later, Richard. Actually, it's pretty much time for me to get off of here soon, just because my stupid back and stupid migraines. The genocide argument almost gets to the point, but misses it still. What causes individuals to choose to abort in the first place? If these reasons are beyond their control, is it really their fault? Right, and I think a genocide, I mean, this is like active, targeted, outside of somebody's group. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not a single individual saying, you know what, this is not, like, I'm not the right person to have a child at this time. I'm not going to bring a child into this world knowing full well that I'm incapable of sufficiently providing for this child. I would not consider that a genocide. The thing I mentioned with forced sterilizations, I would say that would be much closer to a genocide. But that's not the example that was given. That's the example I brought up. Let's see. In March of Israel, the rate of unvaccinated to vaccinated getting COVID was 50-1. Unfortunately, the effect has faded. I think the other issue too is that the vaccine was developed for a type of COVID. Now we have different variants. So that's another thing to consider. Let's see. Any relation to lemon talk, the top shelf strain? I actually don't know what you're referring to. I'm sorry. If an abortion of a fetus is genocide, then millions of teenage boys and men are creating the worst genocide. I mean, to be fair, sperm is not a fetus. I mean, those without COVID vaccinations, there are people getting called freeloaders by you in this convo. They're not freeloaders. I'm saying that they are. There's too many lines of conversation. You're misremembering our dialogue. I'll just go. You can say that, and I feel like that's a very like dismissive thing. And you've been part of my channel for a long time, so hopefully you understand that I'm not a horrible monster that can't think with nuance. Do you understand? I mean, you had accused me of promoting genocide. You accused me of believing that we should prune the existing population of unvaccinated people and send all of them away. And I thought I was pretty clear that I'm talking about a very specific subset of the unvaccinated that are doing it for very selfish reasons versus the majority of unvaccinated people that I believe we should have an open and honest discussion with them. Because I think there's a misunderstanding. Because a lot of people that I've heard raise questions about the vaccine, and like, I'm not sure if I want to get the vaccine because it's untested. Like they actually think it's untested, and that's just factually wrong. But they don't know that. They don't understand why the vaccine was produced so quickly, so they mistrust it or they're very hesitant about it. So there, I would say, is more unvaccinated because of vaccine hesitancy. Those are the people I'm saying we should have a discussion with. I'm not calling them freeloaders. I don't think they should die. I think that we should have that science communicator type of discussion. But for the people that are actively saying, I know all of these things, but however, I'm choosing to put other people at risk and contribute to this type of virus still being in society, to contribute to allowing it to mutate by giving myself and the other members of my family open unvaccinated hosts for it to mutate actively. And I don't care, other people that want to get, those people, they, if they're unhealthy, my family and I are healthy, we shouldn't get vaccinated. There's a type of elitism, there's a type of ableism there. Those people should, again, live on the outskirts of society. I'm not saying they should live like, again, I never said they should be exiled. I specifically said against that. I never said they should never participate in society. We talked about ways they can still participate in society. But if they are actively doing something, knowing full well the consequences, and they're actively doing something that can harm people in society, I don't see why it makes sense for them to stay in the society when they really disagree with it to the point that they're willing to cause harm to other people on the grounds of, well, my immune system is healthy, who cares about yours? I really don't think that type of person should be in a society. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't use the internet or any of the other benefits. As I even said, I even gave those examples. So again, I don't think I'm misremembering the dialogue. I think I'm being overly clear. But I think there might be, again, that kind of bias that somebody is saying something that sounds like extreme opinion A, so it's being lumped in with extreme opinion A, when it's really a pretty, I don't think it's a very controversial position that I have, that we should provide information in a non-condescending way and an open way to people who have vaccine hesitancy. I don't think that's controversial. I think that's a good thing to do. If you think it's controversial to provide that, then please let me know. But again, I'm not saying all or most of the vaccinated people fall into that very specific subset of anti-social, ableist, really just selfish individuals. Yeah. My girlfriend had to wait to get the vaccine because she was going through chemo. Imagine fighting cancer and having to worry that others aren't helping to protect you for selfish reasons. Right. And again, I think it's not most people are avoiding the vaccine. I guess we should have the vaccine hesitancy group versus the actively hateful of vaccines. It's everybody's responsibility to have a good immune system kind of group. Yeah. People with doctor-approved exemptions wouldn't have the extra tax or cost. The character limit on the comments reduces nuance. I know, it sucks. Also, I've only got so many characters to try to say something. It's pointless. I agree. It's pretty difficult. Some people try to make like multiple posts. You can do that. You can go to the Discord. That's another option as well. But again, I don't think anything I've said is particularly controversial, and I think I've been very fair and very understanding of people who have vaccine hesitancy versus people who were specifically like Mulat, who said, it's my right to spread that disease because my immune system's healthy. And so if somebody else doesn't have a healthy immune system, so what? That was his argument. That was his argument. So that's the type of person I'm talking about. But if someone is just like, well, I don't know. I mean, I've heard some conflicting information. I'm not really sure what to believe. And without a sure answer, I have, I'm a bit wary of injecting this stuff into my body. That's not the person I'm talking about. I'm talking about the guys like Mulat who say, I know better, but my immune system's healthy, so screw everybody else. That's the person I'm talking about. That's a person who doesn't like living in society. They don't want to participate in that social contract and promote like the basic health and well-being of a society. Let's see, another point can be made about genocide is if state employees, for example, the cops kill more people of a certain race than the other, is that state genocidal? Why or why not? I think for genocide, you need like a specific like outline. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it's, how do I want to phrase this? An accidental genocide? I don't even know how to phrase. How could you have an accidental genocide? Maybe just terrorist. You're a terrorist. Yeah. It's obvious you're fair and intellectually honest when you talk and that you've thought about these things. Do you feel you're still getting value from the people who don't pick up on that? I do. I think that's why actually I had just asked for the other person to explain what they disagree with specifically, because it's really important, I think, to communicate ideas. And I think that like the cheap shots, like the dismissive comments or whatever, and I mean, I've been guilty of it in the past too. I do my best to not do that. Sometimes I still will post it, maybe out of habit or something. And I do try to fix that or delete the comment later before the person sees it, because I realize I'm just being angry, or spiteful or whatever. I think it's really important to understand what the other person is not understanding and why. If it's something on my end where I didn't communicate very well, then of course I want to know so I can communicate that better. But if it's something on the other person's end, I would also like to know, just in case I am able to communicate with this person better by understanding them better. And if not, perhaps in the future, if I'm having trouble communicating again, I can think, oh, maybe they're thinking like this other experience that I've had. Maybe I can address it in a different way that might be more appealing. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. What do your students learn from these interactions? Which interactions? I would love to hear their discussions with translation. They have to have the discussions in English as per the rules of the school. Do you think it's possible to eradicate SARS-CoV-2 with a vaccine, or are we going to need to get vaccinated every year? That's a good question. That's a good question. We're getting a lot of the variants, which we might get to a point where we can't catch up and we're going to end up with like a flu situation. The other thing, though, is that they are doing more research on getting a couple vaccines, 2 or 3 vaccines, that will give your immune system enough tools to be vaccinated against a highly variable vaccine, or sorry, highly variable virus. So if it works, then you should be able to get like 2 or 3 vaccines and be immune to the flu, like the different strains of the flu, even ones that have not mutated yet. So if we could do that with COVID as well, then I think that would make the mutations kind of moot. But yeah, we have to think about that. Like with Ebola, there's not a ton of different types of Ebola. Ebola tends to kill you pretty fast. So it doesn't get to like survive very easily in the population, especially with some of the Ebola variants that kill like 98% of the people they infect. That's not something that's going to be able to get into somebody's body and really mutate and then be easily passed in the population because the person doesn't realize they're sick, right? If you have Ebola, you've got blood coming out of every orifice and you're at home being miserable. So with those types of illnesses, you know, when HIV becomes AIDS, you know, for example, too, that kind of stuff it tends to be a killer pretty fast before we were able to really protect against it, which now I guess it's you have a very equal quality of life and life expectancy than somebody that doesn't have HIV or AIDS, which is awesome. But yeah, there's some viruses just by their nature that don't have a lot of mutation ability. So this might be one of those that does have a lot of mutation ability. So if we don't nip it now, then our only hope is those future type of vaccines that would give us the ability to make our immune system figure out all future variants of it. So that would be the hope. But at least there is hope, right? That's the nice thing. The U.S.'s obsession with guns and the resulting high gun crime and gun injury rates is a significant contributor to our medical costs. The gun industry creates... Sorry, I jumped again. Far more medical costs than in its revenue. It's a huge net cost to the nation, like tobacco was. I am curious about the number, like the percentage of the medical costs in the U.S. that are due to gun injury rates. Just out of curiosity, do you know what that percentage is? Time to go kill things now. Fun stream. Thanks. See you later, NM. Seems like people that believe in conspiracies do so because they feel they lack power and control over their own lives, and conspiracy theories give them a reason for the lack of control. It's almost like religion in a way, but it also makes them feel like there's a way around it if you fight it a certain way. But I guess with religion, you know, if you pray a certain way or something, you feel like you have a way around it. There's a lot of like the do-it-yourself people that like that kind of mentality. I like to do my own thing, a high level of individuality, and also like a distrust or other like aversion to authority. And you put those kind of together, and you end up with someone who's willing to believe in conspiracy theories. Partially, it could also be on education, but you need those other like personality traits, I would say. I wonder how much overlap there is between anti-vax and flat earth communities. If I were to guess, just based on my interactions, I would say almost all flat earthers are anti-vax, but most anti-vaxxers probably aren't flat earthers. Vegan cheese tastes so horrible. I can handle vegan versions of most things, but not the cheese. It depends on which one. Some of them are quite good. I like them personally. They just don't really have them in Korea, unfortunately. I'm sorry to hear that, Hero, that you have COVID-19. Are you in the hospital? Are you at home? It's interesting how many people come in here with COVID, and then to have people say, no, we should just not get vaccinated. It's like, what are you telling them, you know? It depends on the virus and the variants. Probably be endemic, meaning boosters will be required in winter seasons. Could be. My local hospital says they haven't had a need to hospitalize anyone who was vaccinated. All the people in the ICU and with COVID are unvaccinated. I've heard that as well. So even if you get the vaccine, you can still get COVID, but it's not nearly as bad. Your lungs are not all damaged and everything. But I think the argument there was about the ability to pass on the virus, even with the vaccine. I know someone who's not going to get vaccinated because they think we don't know the full effects of the vaccine, but they should also know to stay away from society, not do social gatherings and so on. So they're not exactly negationists, and I understand if they don't vaccinate, they shouldn't harm other people. Yes. So for those, yeah, I totally agree with you. They understand that the virus is still a threat. They are still a carrier of a type that can mutate as well. You know what I mean? An incubator, even, if you want to say it that way. So they understand that, but then they also say, hey, I'm not too sure about the vaccine. So they do what they can around that. And I think that's, you know, that's definitely a better option. Let's see. The high rate of abortion per pregnancy miscalculated with birth per population could get his claim, but it's not true overall. So yeah, and I mean, again, I even provided like an example of a genocide that wasn't related to abortion, but was related to women's care. I have heard a lot of ableism because of my disabilities are invisible. People have revealed negative feelings about people like myself. Girl, tell me about it. I just want to convey my appreciation before I go to bed. Please move to Europe. Thank you, Ronald. I would say people who pay visits to a clinic at least 3 or 4 times a year, they must be vaccinated without a doubt. I would agree. Yeah, I'm one of those people that I have to go to the doctor pretty regularly. So for me, getting vaccinated is something that I just need to do. But if I'm in a situation where I'm unable to get vaccinated and I have to go to the doctor, you know, that's when it becomes really difficult. I have a good joke about pizza. Never mind, it's too cheesy. Oh my gosh. I posted something on Instagram a while ago. It was something like cheese's crust. It's sacrilegious. It's like just a stupid pizza joke. The power of crust compels you. That was the other joke I fit in there. I made it look like a pizza advertisement or something. Looks like we heard of around 20 COVID variants. I haven't heard that. I've heard 5. I suspect we've reached around the point where COVID is endemic. I mean, if it's 20 variants, it's yeah. There are any other trolls out in the chat tonight? I don't think anybody here was trolling, honestly. I really don't. I think they were sharing their genuine opinions. And I think, again, that's one of the things we have to just discuss it with them. Because I know both of those people from other posts they made on the channel, they weren't trolling. They were just expressing their ideas, and they felt attacked, and that sucks that they felt attacked, because that's what I was really trying to avoid. I didn't want them to feel attacked, but unfortunately that's the outcome that it appears had happened. So that's, you know, that's too bad. But yeah, I don't think they were trolling, and to just dismiss them as trolls is exactly the problem that I was saying that that other people are contributing to. You know, if you already feel like you can't trust the vaccine or the people that promote the vaccine, and then instead of providing explanations or evidence or something, instead they just insult you, it doesn't really help you trust the vaccine. You know what I mean? This girl is low-key super hot. Your profile picture? I mean, I can't really see it. I'm sorry. My friend died of COVID prior to the vaccines. He would have given everything for a vaccine. My old sergeant died too. Hi, Neil. Nice to see you here. Both Brandons are trolls. Great. That's spam comments, but I'm not a troll. Anyways, Canada's implementing a vaccine passport. I mean, how many Brandon? No, I think it's the same person. They maybe just changed their profile picture. The last good study, and the NRA was able to ban funding for further studies. So the lifetime medical costs of gun injuries average $90,000 and $130,000, $100K per injuries year, so $10 billion plus. That sucks. And again, I wonder though, how much of that's like the inflated medical cost that they have in the US? Like, what would that actually be if it was another country, for example? I'm curious about that. All right. We might have to live with the current virus. We might. I guess the hope is that it doesn't go too much worse, you know? Do I live in a homeless shelter? Yeah, me and my Yeti mic. Google the number of variants. There's Delta, Eta, Iota, Lambda, Kappa. Boy, man. We're just going to go through the whole Greek alphabet, aren't we? The study was done in 1997. Chat has been, wow. Jeez, really? We're doing a pools closed? Boy, those are some ancient memes. Dang. You do spam. I mean, you did say you spam, you know. That to me is trolling, I would say. That to me is trolling, is spamming. Well done for getting through all the chat, I know, right? Once I shut up and just get to the chat instead of talking. But I feel like, yeah, I feel like sometimes you gotta explain what you're thinking, because I don't know. It's hard to just sum everything up, I think. Especially if you're working through the concept as you're going like live, you know. If I had a moment to like type all this out and then edit and whatever, and then had the chance to redo it, then maybe I could shrink it down. But having to do this live is pretty woof, you know. Pool's closed. No, that's not. It was like this meme from 2006, 2008. It was something, what was it called? Harbo Hotel or something? Habbo Hotel? I don't know. I only knew of the meme. I didn't know the site that it came from. But wow. I mean, I didn't expect to see that. That's like if somebody was like, oh, I'm logging into the internet with Prodigy. You're like, really? I didn't even know people still use that. Let's see, not a troll, but she's hot in homeless shelter. I don't know. Maybe we were gonna get part 3 of that, which was a proposition. Huge eye roll for those of you guys that were not watching, because I know some of you guys turned this on for the background. It's like candle. Oh my god. Oh. Yeah, let's go down the meme nostalgia. Oh my god. Oh my god. When was that? That was like what, 2003? Candlejack? It was Habbo Hotel. It was from 2006. Okay. I remember it was around the time I was in the military. People would just like spam different parts. Oh, okay, you know the meme. Okay. Jeez. Yeah, of course I know it. There was one old meme that my student actually knew. I don't know what I was doing. It was like a break or something. I was showing my students remember those magic eye things? And so I was saying, yeah, you gotta like, you know, unfocus your eyes, whatever. And so I was going through some of them on Google Images. Oh, this is a dolphin. I was kind of trying to outline it for them so they could see it without seeing it, you know, if they didn't do the thing with their eyes to see the magic eye. But then one of them was it was words, and I was reading, I was like, you just lost the game, no! And one student knew what it was and started laughing. I was like, yeah, I can't believe it. How did that happen in a meme? But at least one of the students understood it, which was good. So that was, yeah. But now all of you just lost the game. Are we gonna do any other old ones? I already threw out the mushroom when somebody mentioned a badger in Walmart. I don't know what other ones we got. You've never been able to see one of those. All your meme are belong to us. Oof. Yep. There we go. Someone set us up the base, or someone set us up the bomb, right? You do. What is it? I don't know. My eye. I guess I got a kind of lazy eye. Maybe that was what makes it easier. Do you remember the rye meme where that guy would like drop a steamroller and go? Do you remember that one? Let's see. My proposition. Hey, baby, let's play Portal. Then you'll understand the lemon joke. Maybe I will. What are our other good memes? The oldest and most obscure one is Zeke Boogie Doog. That one I don't know. Hatton Erdin. Do you know that one? Like la 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 la. I think it was from a Lebanese song from 1984, and then somebody made like this hat thing based on if you misheard it in Swedish. Yeah. I was just thinking about that. I should try it now that I have a wonky eye. There you go. That's it. That thing where like you can like half, you know what I mean? Like half, like cross your eye. Do it halfway, and then you can see the thing a lot easier. Hot baby. Yep. That's a good time. You can find it on... Oh, do you remember the Tunak Tunak tune? That one was good. Oh man, that was chef's kiss. That was a good one. The pusher and shover robots. Please stand by the stairs for the terrible secret of space. That one I don't know. But now that reminded me of BattleBots, which apparently they remade, which is interesting. I guess not a meme, but Aeon Flux from that like MTV. Oh, and does anybody know the USA Up All Night? Does anyone know that? It was, they'd show a bunch of trauma movies at night. What countries have I visited? I guess Canada, a little bit. Mexico, Scotland, England, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Australia, Japan. And then I've lived in the US and Korea. You sang that song so nice, it's a party song. It's good. Dollar Mendy, right? He's good. He's got good music. You know, what can we say? It's good. Like, you want to dance to it. I don't know about the music video itself, but the concept is really cool. With Gilbert Godfrey, oh my gosh. I wish I could do his voice. I can't. I can't even try. Like, I feel like I would just embarrass myself, which I guess is fun. How does he even talk? Gilbert Godfrey. I don't know. It's like a weird. I don't know how he does it. What was his name? Bobcat Goldthwait. Remember that guy? What happened to that guy? I'm gonna see what happened to that guy. Bobcat Goldthwait. He was the one. He was faking his. I think he was faking his that sound, but I don't know if Gilbert Godfrey. I think he exacerbates it. He's still alive. What disease does Bobcat Goldthwait have? No, nothing. Doesn't say anything specifically. Man, what happened to him? Oh, he's got an Instagram. He was in Police Academy 4? Yeah, I guess he was, wasn't he? Is he still posting stuff? Oh, I can't even check when that was posted. Oh, well. But you can go to Bobcat Goldthwait, just that's his name. That's comedian, director, and Bigfoot enthusiast. That's exciting. But if we're gonna do B-movie actors, then Bruce Campbell, like, without a doubt. That's it. He has cocaine, Lemon. That's his disease, is cocaine. It took me a second. I was thinking of Dr. Roxo. The rock and roll clown! Yeah! There's a great clip of Gilbert Gottfried on Hollywood Squares. I watched that very recently. I forget what he said, but I watched it very recently, actually. Like yesterday? No, Friday. I watched it. Yeah, he's pretty funny if you let him just be funny as opposed to, oh, he's got that annoying voice and that's the joke, you know? I feel like they did that a lot for some of his characters. They wouldn't let him be as funny as he could be. They kind of wrote for around the voice being the joke, you know? Which I don't know, that doesn't do it for me. So, all right, any last words? I was actually planning on being here for 30 minutes and somehow that turned into 2 hours and 40 minutes, which is great, but I need to put ice on my upper back and my neck and my head. So I'm gonna go. But I think we had a fascinating conversation. Love the Evil Dead franchise. Yeah, that's a good last words to say. That would be fun if I could go to school for as Ash for Halloween. Did you see the remake? I didn't know how they were gonna do an Evil Dead remake, because how do you do an Evil Dead remake? So they made it super scary. Like, it's a really good, like, horror film. It's gross and it's good. So they didn't try to recapture any of that B-movie magic. They just kind of used the premise of this, like, house that has some kind of demonic presence or something in the middle of the woods, so it's very isolated, and just kind of went with that. So it wasn't, like, cheeky, it wasn't funny, it was really good, but not Evil Dead. It was, like, Evil Dead inspired. I think that was a smart choice, because you cannot recreate what Evil Dead did, but then to be able to use a basic premise, and then also to be able to use the name to get your name out there, because I don't know if I would have watched it. I don't know if I would have heard of it if it wasn't, oh, the Evil Dead remake. But I'm glad I watched it, because it's good. It's scary. It's good. I might watch it tonight or now. Why not? While I'm lying in bed. So, yeah, the remake is like 10 times gorier. It is. It's like nasty. It's insane. But again, you gotta go that route. You know what I mean? I think that was part of the, maybe that was like a nod to the, I don't know. It was just like the gritty remake or something. But I think they did a good job with it. Yeah. Let's see. Bring back Metalocalypse. I know. Thanks for the stream. Glad you did it. Yeah. Thanks for the encouragement. Godfrey's super nasty when he's allowed to be. I know. I think that's the funny thing is you kind of don't expect it, like Bob Saget. I think we should end this chat with you talking in tongues. Oh my god. Maybe. Glad I found your channel. Thanks for joining us, Nam. Yoda de Chandene. Not Ada de Chandene, it's Yoda de Chandene. Let's see. The remake was something different and good on its own. Right, I agree. I like that they, like, not even paid homage, but it's like blew a kiss to the original Evil Dead while still going on its own way. I think that was a smart way to do it. They remade The Craft, I think, and I was gonna watch that, but I'm scared. I don't know if it's gonna be really bad or what. I really like The Craft. That's kind of something I like to watch every October. So we'll see. Let's see. What do you think of the idea that the virus was designed by the Chinese or by an international effort? So my students actually had that question, and I was saying, you know, if I was going to do something, because I've heard it was designed to harm China by the CIA or something. And I said, well, if I was going to do that, I would do a flesh-eating bacteria, you know, because you need treatment for it. You can't just hope your immune system takes care of it. And if you can't access proper treatment, you got to amputate something. And if you amputate it, then that hurts your production ability, and it also hurts the government because they have a socialist kind of take care of the people sort of thing. So if now you don't have the income you used to, now the government's going to help you. So instead of making money, the government loses money. So something like mercury poisoning or lead poisoning or flesh-eating bacteria, that's the route I would go if I was trying to cripple an economy or something. But just to say it was designed by China, I've only heard that from people who say that, oh, well, there was like a research place for viruses and they were testing it. Yeah, my dude, that's what a research place for viruses does. They test it. I mean, we still have smallpox in research facilities too. So they made it seem like it was this sinister, unique thing that, oh, the Chinese are testing it. But it's, no, that's what you do. That's what you do. But I don't think there's any reason to do it by an international effort. Like if it was the elites trying to reduce the size of the population, which is one of the common conspiracies, I think it's called Agenda 21, which actually has nothing to do with population control if you actually read Agenda 21. But if I were to do that, like if I was an elite, I would do something like mercury or lead poisoning in the water. That's what I would do, because I could afford to buy filtered water. Maybe I have my own mountain spring, because I own this cabin or something in some place in Aspen or whatever. So I have my own mountain spring that I can get my own water, and I'm never at risk. But if it's something like a virus, I could be at risk to get it. And I feel like that's an unnecessary risk to take when you could just put lead in the water. You know what I mean? So I think that as a deliberate thing, it sucks. Inefficient. Because if I really wanted to hurt and dumb down the population, absolutely lead poisoning. Absolutely. Man, if you want to talk about something that drops in IQ in the next generation, lead poisoning for sure. For sure. Causing a lot of problems, but the population that's alive would be ill, but also still able to do menial work. Pfft. Man, if I was an evil billionaire, lead poisoning for sure. Not a virus that I gotta make. That sounds like a waste of my time. You know what I mean? Lead poisoning. That's what I would do. Series is more like a remake of the movies. Yeah, that's what I think. Yoda de Shandane, exactly. It's the same kind of virus that was expected sooner or later. Doesn't matter if this one was designed right. I mean, we get like a pandemic or epidemic, depending on interactions of trade routes and stuff, about every 100 years. Just like we get a super flood about every 100 years. We get a huge extra hurricane in about every 100 years. It's just a thing the planet does. So of another virus or something, I mean, it was expected. So I don't know if it was deliberate, but if it was deliberate, inefficient, for sure. I would do the lead poisoning. That's what I would have done. Covert 22, right? Unless it's catch 22. And that's what we're talking about. It wasn't designed by the CIA. It was designed by China because they wanted to get rid of the older population, but then something happened where it got out, and that's why we're here today. Citation needed. But again, I would just do... I would poison their elderly people medication, for, let's say that the majority of people on blood pressure medication are the elderly. I would just poison that. Why risk like a virus? You know what I mean? Why risk that? Plus, there was already SARS-1. SARS-1 absolutely would kill old people. Well, just drop that again. We don't need a second variant. You know what I mean? We don't need to manufacture. We have plenty at our disposal. Even if they're not vaccinated against chickenpox, the elderly can die. You know what I mean? There's no reason to manufacture a second virus. And again, I would just poison them. That's it. That's what I would do. It's less of a problem. And it's easier to blame on something. Easier to cover up. Stays in house. Poison. For sure. It was American funded. Again, flesh-eating bacteria, that'd be better. Mercury poisoning, lead poisoning. One of those would be way better, way more efficient. All the elite had to do was kill a lot of people and tell the government to do so. Don't need to go the virus route. Right. That's all they had to do, you know. China already has a malnutrition problem in its rural areas. Right. It's not like these are super robust individuals that we got to devise like a super virus. These are old people that are taking meds and can barely walk. Fumigate in that area hard enough and they'll die. You know what I mean? Are we talking about people taking ivermectin to treat COVID? No, we're talking about the idea of COVID being manufactured as a deliberate attack on the elderly in China or the public as part of Conspiracy Theory Agenda 21. Yeah, get some rest. Yeah, I know, right? It definitely was not deliberately released. Yeah, I agree. Again, I would just poison. Lead poisoning would definitely be a candidate. The only problem is it makes people aggressive and becomes persuasive. So you know what an aggressive, crazy government leadership. I mean, have you seen the American public? They're already aggressive as it is. But perhaps the filming of it, right, kind of tones it down a bit. But yeah, maybe too aggressive. Maybe Mercury. Biggest threat to mankind is a bioengineered virus with a fatality rate of 100%. It's inevitable that a bad actor will one day have the technology to do this. Actually, no, Tony. Unless you have it where, like we were talking about the spread of Ebola and how it doesn't have as many opportunities to mutate because there are some Ebola strains that have like a 98% fatality rate and it never explodes because there's not a lot of like movement that can happen. Once I contract Ebola, I'm in bed until I die. You know what I mean? I can't walk around and spread Ebola. So if we have something that's like 100% fatality, it's going to have to be one of those weird dormant ones or it doesn't show any signs of sickness but somehow like stops your heart or something like that. Yeah, because otherwise, if it was that dangerous and that deadly, you would just be in bed, not spreading it, you know. Hey man, I don't know why China does what they do, but she is a messed up person and it's a communist country. I mean, it's not all communist, but there you go. So here, I mean, what does that prove? So therefore, they pointlessly manufactured a virus to target just the elderly, and then it accidentally got out into the wider population. How does that, like, the one does not beget the other, right? I don't know why China does what they do. Therefore, they killed their elderly with a totally pointlessly manufactured virus that accidentally got out. That doesn't follow logically. Do you know what I'm saying? Oh, they're communists, so therefore they killed their elderly with a pointlessly manufactured virus that accidentally got out, right? It doesn't follow. Do Koreans speak slang words? Like what's up, what's happening, dude, what's going on? You mean like English slang? If they learn it, yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, Korean itself has slang, yeah, for sure. Release contaminated prune juice. There we go. That would precisely target the elderly. What do you think about mandatory vaccine passports? I mean, what do you think about mandatory driver's licenses? Same thing. I mean, we talked about what you would do, but I know what they would do in government. Well, he isn't that smart, but somehow we get fooled into thinking this was a regular occurrence. So where is your evidence, right? We know that we get pandemics about every 100 years. We know we already had SARS-1. We know it's a coronavirus and coronaviruses mutate like other viruses mutate. So we know all of this can happen naturally. Where is your evidence that it was manufactured? I don't think it wouldn't do the CCP any good to purposely poison the elderly, considering they have an aging population with a low birth rate. They're actually telling their youth to have more kids to support them. I think that was their idea. I think that's what he was saying. I must say, I don't know why he would do the things that he does, but just look at China, my bro. That party is messed up. The CCP is evil. Hero, this is what people say about the United States. That's why I mentioned earlier, maybe you weren't here, the US is pretty equivalent to Russia and China, for sure. And for some reason, Americans don't think so, and then people in Russia also probably don't think so, and people in China likely don't think so either. Yeah. You went to designing a flesh-eating bacteria very quickly, like you barely had to give it any thought. Oh, because I've thought about it before. Yeah, because I heard this when we first, when the virus first happened, like when we first were just like epidemic instead of pandemic. So when these ideas were being brought up, I was like, that took more time, but then I thought, yeah, no, I would totally make a flesh-eating bacteria if I was trying to cripple their economy. All this conspiracy stuff drives me mad. Everyone is always talking about conspiracies these days. It breeds, I mean, people talk about conspiracies forever. So it's not just these days. It does spread faster though, just because of the social media, but yeah, it breeds paranoia. Let's see. Also, COVID is always mutating. It's less deadly now than it was before. No, it's not. No, like the Delta 1 strain, I believe, is much, much more deadly. I thought the Delta, yeah, there you go, see? Okay, Delta strain, yeah. Thing is, one of the China's greatest capital is the amount of people they have. That's why big corporations like Disney obey the CCP. Yeah. Killbots are very effective, right? I feel like I didn't explain myself correctly. That's fine. You can post it in the Discord, but I would start with, I have evidence or good solid reason to believe that China did this, as opposed to it being naturally occurring. So I've made a case for why I believe it's naturally occurring, and also what I would do if I was trying to harm my own population. But yeah, if you want to share why you specifically think it was deliberately bred, but also looks totally natural. Some Marvel movies have different versions to attend to Chinese cultural expectations. That's true, but I think it's for other expectations too. Like some of the names get changed. One of the small examples of this would be with like translations and like subtitles. And it's if like you don't usually call people by a name in Korea necessarily. You would call them by a title a lot of times. And so for if you have two brothers, for example, the younger brother calls the older brother. That's what he calls him. But from like a movie made in the States or something, they would call him by their name. So the younger brother might say, Derek, where are you? But instead of Derek, it would just be translated to the word for older brother, which is Hyung. So it's like Hyung, 어디에? You know, something like that. So that might, you know, I think every place does that. They did that with Pokemon. Do you guys remember, like back in the 90s? They changed the onigiri to like donuts, the jelly donuts or something. Slightly different question. Do you think the virus came from some market originally or from a lab in Wuhan? So what we know about the SARS virus is it tends to be, what is it, a zoonotic virus that gets into the population. Same with the H1N1. So I don't know if it necessarily had to be a wet market, but it gave the impression that a wet market is like a bunch of live animals. I mean, a farmer's market is a wet market. So, you know, but should we be like interacting with animals that closely and doing that? I mean, just, you know, gives us a pause for, do we really need to be eating this much meat all the time? You know, but then is that the majority of food availability in that area for calories? You know, but we do have to be careful with that. There already are vaccine entry requirements for many viruses from nations, including entry to the US from many other nations. I love it. Delta spreads faster. Wuhan Virology Lab was doing a gain of function research. So this is what I was talking about, Tony, and for the rest of the chat. I was saying that there was a virology lab that was doing testing. That's what virology labs do. It doesn't mean that they were like creating it. But again, if I was creating something to harm people, I would not create a virus. They're just really unpredictable. Delta is much more contagious. Okay. I don't know about Fauci and company funding the research or the emails about COVID escaping from the lab. I know that there were unfounded, like unsubstantiated emails about a researcher, like a young female researcher in particular, that died early on, but there was no evidence that it was anything other than fabricated. So, you know, where's the hard evidence for that? Are we ever going to get hard evidence for that? But again, virologists doing research on viruses is not unexpected, right? That's what they do. I don't know about covering it up. I don't know about ignoring it. That I haven't heard. So I mean, you would have to supply some source, but if you do, you have to say the name of it. You can't post links. That's just not something available. But you should probably post it in the Discord, because I am going to end the chat soon. I know I said that 15 minutes ago, but it's always interesting talking to you guys. So Delta inhabits the upper respiratory tract for a longer duration. Nothing about it makes it deadlier other than it spreads faster. Got it. There was also a big military event in Wuhan that brought people from all around the world. It could have come from anywhere. Also reports of COVID in Western countries like the US. I mean, that was what happened with H1N1. It got slapped with the original like pandemic. It got slapped with the Spanish flu, but really it could have originated in like the state of Missouri in the United States. Wouldn't surprise me if the virus leaked from the lab and moved on accidentally. It's the people that claim it was on purpose that I have trouble believing. Right. I mean, researchers are very careful, but I guess anything could happen. But we've already had SARS-1. I mean, this is a naturally occurring variant. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't... I don't see any reason to jump to the idea that it automatically had to be or was more likely to be manufactured. Speaking of animals possibly being carriers, Reuters recently published an article saying a deer was found to be infected with COVID. I've also heard that a couple like pet animals have had it, but I'm not sure about that exactly. There's so many people trying to say bad stuff about Fauci just because they hate him as being accurate, honest, and helpful as they can be. They hate him because they love Trump. I don't know how many people that watch my videos necessarily support Trump, but I have heard a lot of anti-Fauci things from people that support Trump, but I don't know if that's the case here. But that's why I asked for the source for that. Because when we tried to find, didn't we try to find that on the Patreon chat? Like last week? And it was just like, there was nothing surprising. It was like, oh, there was an email that said, we're not sure what to do yet. And then we found out what to do. Oh, he lied. You know, like he changed his mind. Like, no, he didn't want to scare people. Let's see. I vaguely recall reading about how bats hanging upside down helps them fight off such viruses. Well, there's our solution. So the Chinese lab created COVID-19 and invented time travel and SARS-1 to help cover it. Yes, that's it. I believe the Chinese government has decided it will not allow international probe into the dealings of the lab. It's a bit suspect, but doesn't prove anything on its own. I mean, nationalists be nationalist, you know? Yeah, we looked for it. It was an absolute nothing. Right. It was like it was so, I was expecting at least something substantial, but it was nothing. Like if you look it up, like Fauci lies or whatever, it gave us a BBC article, and it was like so non-controversial. It wasn't even anything. Like it was just so, like it was almost like how bad it was distorted. And maybe there were more that just weren't listed in that BBC article, but how badly it was distorted, it reminded me of those people that like they go into their doctor when their foot's broken or something and they're really obese, and the doctor, you know, doctor, what else can I do to help my foot? It seems to not have, you know, it seems to be taking a long time to heal. And the doctor might say something like, well, part of that reason is, your foot is supporting so much extra weight. So, while you're waiting for, your foot to heal, it might be a good idea to go on a diet and lose some weight, whatever. And then the person going back and like posting on social media, my doctor told me that my foot was broken because I'm fat, and my doctor fat shamed me, and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's kind of the impression of how totally distorted the information was. That's the impression I got, like, here's a doctor saying something that's so benign, and then people are like, oh, he's a liar, But I think that's half the problem, is when you say, yeah, Fauci lied. Well, yeah, government officials lie sometimes. Of course I'm going to believe that without looking it up. And that's the problem, You always, I always try to let the students know that, nobody's 100% bad or 100% good. So we can't just assume just because of a person doing a thing. Like, I try to introduce them to logical fallacies without necessarily telling them, that it is a logical fallacy, and what that means, and here's the Greek for it and whatever, or Latin for it. I don't know which one it is, but I think it's Latin. But anyway, just to kind of show them, like, these are some errors that you might make in thinking, and here's how to go, go around it, and here's what you might hear, and ask always ask people, always be ready to ask people, how do you know that's true? Let's see. I think Fauci sucks, or I think Trump sucks, but Fauci lied and covered the leak, likely to protect the medical science community. So if it ever admitted it did leak from a lab America funded, people will lose faith in science on a large scale. It could be, but you still have to provide like the source for that. But also, it may be like one of those things where the U.S. makes a lot of donations to a lot of stuff. And there's a lot of donations that the U.S. gives to things that it's not willing to do on its own soil. Not necessarily illegal, just they just don't do it. So they kind of outsource it to some other places. Has that happened in the past, where the U.S. has funded something that went totally awry and it sucked, and the U.S. was like, oh, we didn't do it? Yeah, absolutely. Hell, Agent Orange, But does that mean that was the case here? We would just, again, need to, like, we can't use just, okay, there is a track record that this has happened. Therefore, with this new case, that is what happened. Like, we need the evidence for it. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not saying it's that I don't believe you, or that it's impossible, or that you're like a crazy conspiracy nut. We would just need to have that evidence. That's all. Let's see. Trump couldn't the pandemic like he bullied the pandemic like he bullied every other issue he ran against. His cult of personality still rallied against what is his perceived enemy, which is Dr. Fauci. Yeah, but like Tony said, that Tony thinks Trump sucks. I believe Tony. I don't think Tony's necessarily lying. Once those ideas get out, other people can believe them. So even if it was initially put out by people who hated Dr. Fauci because they like Trump, now it's believed by people who also hate Trump. Fauci represents the top of the pyramid when it comes to scientific research funding. He's a very powerful individual. I mean, again, this is very like America-centric as well. There's other places that are absolutely funding other research. It would not surprise me if the U.S. was funding this research in China. There would also be other places funding the same research facility. So it just seems very strange that there would be a foreign research facility that only gets its funding only from the United States, and then people tried to hide it rather than mitigate it, even though they knew how dangerous it was. That would be weird to me. I mean, if the government tried to cover it up, they would still attempt to contain it. They wouldn't pretend it didn't exist, right? Because otherwise it gets out. So, yeah, I feel like... I just feel like it's... As somebody who worked in intelligence in the military, there are things that you don't find out because you cannot find them out because of how they're planned. Like, this is like the most... Like... This is like Boris and Natasha from Bullwinkle level of blundering. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, they're only human, but like the idea of how poorly it was contained and how poorly it was conceived and how poorly it was managed. I mean, this is like Saturday morning cartoon level of blundering. If we're talking about stuff that's like severely hidden by the government, you don't know about it. You don't even know what you don't know about it because it's so hidden. Do you know what I mean? Does that mean there's other conspiracies that haven't happened, that haven't got out? There have been, of course, but they are they're done sometimes by corporations. So corporations they're not as good as hiding stuff, like the Agent Orange thing or the different pollution stuff, for example. They're not as good at hiding it, so they just don't hide it. They just claim, oh, you didn't prove that we did it, so like they don't even hide it. So that's not even a conspiracy. But the stuff the government does, like you got to learn about it after it's either been released to the public, like from the Freedom of Information Act, or the expiration on the classification for it, or somebody is like a whistleblower. That's how you find out, because they know what they're doing. Like they know how to hide this stuff. So the idea that like it's just like a juggling accident where they oops dropped that ball, oops dropped that ball, oops dropped that ball, fell over and their pants fell off, I mean, that's not what the highly funded government does. You know what I mean? Like that's not what they do. That's the other reason. Like it's so sloppy that I can't imagine this is a government thing. Like I said, there's a lot of other ways to do it with something like the lead poisoning, and that's very easy to fake. Do you know what I mean? With something like a bio-manufactured virus that has signatures on it that every other virologist is going to notice. Like, whoa, this is actually not natural. Somebody had to manufacture this. I mean, it's so obvious. That's not. I mean, the government sucks, but it's a little bit slicker than that. It's a little bit slicker than that. Let's see, Project Starfish. I mean, there's all kinds of nuts projects, but again, a lot of times we find this stuff out after it's been released to the public, and some of the stuff they're like overt about. They don't even try to hide it, like the Patriot Act. Nobody hid that, and then people act like, oh, the government's suddenly spying on us, how we figured out the conspiracy. No, you voted on it. There was no conspiracy. Nobody's hiding it. It's the same again with like Agent Orange. Nobody's hiding it. It's just, did you prove it? It's so pathetic, Same thing with the swine waste thing that I was talking about. You got a bunch of disadvantaged people that have to prove something. It's not a conspiracy. It's just like I would say criminal negligence, not a conspiracy. Yeah. Let's see. America was doing a gain of function research on American soil when Obama found out he closed all the labs. That's why he moved the funding to Wuhan. I mean, cool, but again, these are statements, right? We need evidence. My nature is cool, friendly, nice, and sweet. I had to try that. That's not my natural nature. It was Fox Network talking heads who made Fauci out to be a liar early 2020. Their audience ran with it. I do remember that, but I don't remember specifics. Their IS has a policy that makes the CIA release documents, you mean the US, to the public periodically. Do you think they release information that is critical to national security? Not if it's still critical to national security. So when they release it, there are parts that are blacked out. That stuff is like still critical to national security. And when I'm talking about like the conspiracies and stuff, or like the hidden stuff, I remember asking my sergeant, I'm like, this doesn't seem like it's a big deal. How come they don't, like, nothing happened? Like, why is this considered, not information we can share, which I still can't share with you guys. And he said, it's because of the panic it would cause. So even though nothing happened, people would be worried that perhaps it could have happened, so they panic. and we want to avoid that. Oh, okay. A lot of the other like sacred information and stuff has to do with things that you guys don't ever encounter or care about, which is just like intelligence gathering for like war stuff. Like you guys don't care what new IED is made, for example, you know what I mean? Or what new vehicle is being driven, or the new type of cell phone model, or whatever router they're using. You know, you don't care about that stuff. But again, you don't even know about that stuff. That's the government covering stuff up, you know? So it's hard to know what they're doing. So like I said, this just seems way too Rocky Bullwinkle Saturday morning cartoon Hanna-Barbera blundering for the government, you know? Why does YouTube not recommend her vids? I thought she retired. No. Hello. Welcome back. You can, I guess, subscribe and hit the notification bell. I don't know. Project Starfish was a joke. Oh, okay. See, that's the Suicide Squad thing. Yeah. So at least I didn't pretend that I knew what it was, right? That's how you know I'm just very, very honest. Like, yeah, whatever, you know. But I was thinking perhaps you might have been referring to Project Stargate. That's what I was wondering if you were referencing. What's Agent Orange? Haven't heard about that. I won't get too into it just because it'll take a while, but basically it's a super strong herbicide that was used in the Vietnam War because a lot of the Viet Cong were hiding in the jungles. So what if we just delete the foliage? That of course ends up in the water and the land, and so even today people are still having severe birth defects. And so Monsanto, which is the group that made it, and it's orange, that's why they call it Agent Orange, they're just like, well, prove we did it. So yeah, we know we made this pesticide and we know whatever, but prove it caused this birth defect. Okay. Both parties voted for the Patriot Act. Hell, Biden proudly proclaims to be a co-sponsor part of the bill. Right. I mean, this was a different time in America where everyone was like ultra patriotic for the most part. But now people nowadays, they're like, did you know the government listens to our conversations? Did you know this? We found this thing. It's being shared on like this other website. Like, no, this is what the government, they told you this. This is not, it reminds me of that like episode of The Simpsons, the Join the Navy one. And they're like, yeah, we do liminal, subliminal, liminal, and superliminal. That was superliminal. Hey, we're going to record your conversations. Okay. You know? Do you think the governments are using COVID to perpetuate emergency powers in a way? No, it's a waste. It's a waste to do that. Emergency powers, like, the government's like the rest of us. They're lazy. Okay. This emergency stuff is too much, and it's too like severe that if you make a mistake, like you really can lose your job and things. It's too much. Might there be some people that are particularly excited about it? Sure. There's all types of psychology in different groups of people for sure. But otherwise, I mean, emergency stuff just means it's more work. And it's more money that's going to this thing instead of to my pockets if I'm, you know, taking any of it or whatever. But it's just more work, you know. I mean, look what happened to, what's his name? Ted Cruz. Couldn't even go on vacation with his family without being under super hyper scrutiny because it was an emergency situation, you know. So it's just like, who likes that? Nobody likes that. So no, I wouldn't think so. No. If I'm, let me put it this way. If I'm going to control a population, I'm going to do it in a way that's not overt, you know? That's the best way to do it. They don't know. And I'm in control. That's the best way to do it. This chat has been the most interesting ones we had so far. The others were cool, but this has a lot of interesting points and info. I agree. I think this is a lot of fun. Hello from Brazil. Oh, I get to say it again. Bom dia. Just because they told you doesn't mean it's okay. What do you mean? Can you elaborate? Just because they told me about the stuff you mean the the stuff that requires a security clearance. Is that what you're talking about? Fauci went on national news to say masks don't work. Did he say that, or did he say that there were certain types of masks that don't work? Or did he say that there was something about like masks are better to protect the person from spreading it? Something along those lines. That's so that the first responders would still have the masks. The trust problem is self-inflicted by the CDC. If that was the case, then yeah, I would agree. What did we do in Korea? We limited the amount that people could buy. That was it. So that way we knew, like, you could buy like 2 masks per week on certain days. That it had to do with basically your social security number. If it ended in like a 0 or a 5, you could buy them on Monday. If it ended in a 2 or a 6, you could buy them on Tuesday. You could buy for a child or an elderly person or a disabled person. You had to have their ID card, and you could only buy it on their day. And then Saturday and Sunday, I think anybody could buy it at any time. But again, you had to show your card to show, like, they had to run your number. And if it says, hey, you already bought your 2 masks this week, then you couldn't buy more. This prevented hoarding. Nobody lied to us, and the medical personnel still totally had masks. That was the easy, what an easy solution. You know, we still get our masks. It's orderly. It's not anybody hoarding it and then selling it for like a $30 per mask. The medical personnel still get it. No harassment of anybody. I mean, it was such an easy solution. Let's see. Bom dia callback. I know, isn't that nice? Wasn't the Patriot Act meant to be temporary? It was meant to be used. What was it? Oh, is that what you mean? Just because they told us doesn't mean it's okay? No, I think Patriot Act this is one of those contradictory opinions. Because I've seen what I wasn't very high up. I'm not saying that I was like CIA or anything, but just the amount that I was able to see, you see why it worked. But I'm still very in favor of privacy. That one's a hard one because you get to see the results of it and why it makes sense. So I know that sounds very contradictory because I'm about, personal freedom and privacy and all that stuff. But again, there's a reason for it, And if we had the capability and didn't protect the people on the grounds of privacy, then more people would die, and then people would be begging for the government to do it anyway. Do you know what I mean? So, let's see. Very early on, they weren't recommending masks so the first responders would have better access. That's all. They recommended it not long after. He said masks don't work and clarified that masks don't work, period, in the end when pressed by the interviewer. That's too bad. I feel like I remember something like that, but I don't know if I'm having a Mandela effect. But like I said, it didn't even have to go that route. We just made it so. But then you try to do that in the United States. Hey, you can limit 2 per person. People lose their minds. I have the right to over-purchase and prevent other people from being protected. That's not a right. Like, why is this? Go buy something else. I don't know. Are you in favor of torture, a means to an end? No. Because torture doesn't work anyway, as opposed to the means to an end thing. I don't have like a Machiavellian idea of life, if that's what you're asking. But even in the case of torture, it doesn't work, and we know that torture just doesn't work. So not only on like a moral ground, but just on a fact-finding ground, torture doesn't work. See you later, Chris. Speaking of rationing, remember to register this week for the next round of stimulus, just like the other times you go according to your birth date. Red. Contradictions are part of the real world. Individual freedoms depend on social freedom. To maintain one, you have to go against the other. That's true. And it's like, well, how much do we do, Patriot Act was indeed intended to be temporary, but our Congress continued to renew it. I agree it should be repealed or allowed to expire. Again, that's hard. Because it's hard because, again, I can't talk about it. Like, I can't tell you the specifics. I just can't. And I feel like if you knew the specifics, you would understand why. Like, I know how all of this sounds, basically. I know how this sounds, especially because I cannot provide any supporting information. And I totally get it if you guys absolutely disagree with me and, like, hey, you're not providing any evidence and stuff. I 100% get it. But I am saying, if you could see like what it helped, you wouldn't necessarily be against it. Like, that's the thing. And the reason I'm having such a hard time phrasing it is because it's like, I never thought I'd be that person that's like, oh yeah, the government invades my privacy, you know. It's not the invasion like it's made out to be. It's just not. And the stuff that it prevents, it's worth it. And it's just, that's all I can say, you know. Like I said, I get it. I completely understand if you guys don't want to take me on my word. I totally understand that. But because of the information I have, that is my opinion on it. Yeah. N95 masks work best, way better than the clothing made mask. Yeah. The US should have limited the mask. That's what Australia did, right? When everybody was trying to panic buy the toilet paper or the baby formulas after Chinese buyers in the stores, right? Oh, ice in particular. Yeah, ice. I haven't. Now I might. I don't know if I ever get privy to information, which I don't think I ever will. That ice is somehow good, but I haven't seen any evidence that they are doing anything in particular. The stuff that I've seen has to do more with stuff that's directly related to the Patriot Act. I've seen many conscientious service people make the face you just made. I believe you at your word. So it is a face, right? It's because it's so, it's like, you know how people are going to hear it. And it also makes you uncomfortable because you were, you know, again, I live in Korea, but of course I was raised in the United States. And, you know, you get these things like individual liberty and freedom and you know, privacy and all that. And like that almost becomes almost like part of an identity of how you interact with the world. And then you realize there's like reasons for this stuff. And it sits so weirdly. It just sits so weirdly with you. I think it's because it's like the stuff you were taught is a lie in a way. And then when you say it, but you can't provide any evidence for it, then people will think like you're a shill or like a government plant or something. It like almost fuels the conspiracy. And there's just nothing you can do to dispel it. I mean, even if I was very specific about everything that I can't tell you about, I don't have the documents. There's no way to prove it. You know what I mean? There's just no way to prove it. But it's not like I was expecting to see, like, you know, the aliens and all of that. Like I was expecting to see some cool stuff, and it was just like, oh, well, this isn't that surprising. I mean, it's cool. How come we don't tell everybody about this? Oh, they would overreact, huh? Man, if only we could, then maybe people would see it's not that big of a deal, and maybe people would stop trying stuff. But yeah, it was weird. And then it was weird when people were like, oh, we should dismantle like Homeland Security because we haven't had another terrorist attack. And it's like, if only you knew, like, if only you knew what they were doing, you know. Now that really put in context with other nations' reality, like North Korea, China, Russia, absolutely. Yeah, this idea that, oh, China is watching its citizens, but not the United States. Girl, the U.S. is watching everybody. And they're not even like quiet about it, you know. ICE should be eradicated and the old INS should be restored to handle immigration matters. Yeah, I think from what I understand, which again is like, I don't know, you get a different perspective on it. Not like putting kids in cages, but what's public, like what becomes public. You get a really different perspective on the news, because the stuff the news puts out is so sensational. So I really recommend reading 2 or 3 different news sources on it from different countries if you can. The news is, I don't know, the US news, I don't know. It's something else. Again, it's like akin to some North Korean propaganda in a way. Alex Jones, I have the documents. I know, right? Your brain hurts for words that aren't sloppy. It's still important and not classified. Right, that's true. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to accidentally say something. I'll be careful. But I think a lot of it is just, again, you don't want to come off as like a government apologist, because the government does terrible things. This is just not one of them, you know? I think that's what I really want to say about that idea of the government conspiracy with the virus, the pandemic. There's plenty of stuff the government has really done wrong. We don't need to make up more. Like, there's just plenty of it. You know, there's plenty of stuff to criticize about the government. We don't need to make up things to criticize. There's enough. There's enough stuff to be mad about, and there's enough stuff to fight against, and there's enough stuff to warrant voting people out of office and even putting them under criminal investigation. We don't need to make up other stuff. Like there's and then when we make up other stuff, we're letting all that other actual stuff slide. And I think that's the frustrating part for me about these types of like serious conspiracy allegations, is there's actual stuff that's happening that's really bad, and we should be upset about that. But instead we're getting really sidetracked. And again, if I was that person in power, I'd be very happy with this. This is exactly what I would want, right? It's like that episode of Futurama where Fry becomes his own grandpa, and they go to Area 51 and they're showing like, you know, UFOs and aliens and whatever. And they said they bring that one conspiracy nut so that way nobody will believe it, kind of thing. They just, that's exactly what I would want if I was a person in power who was doing things that were unethical, and I wanted to stay in power and not have to worry about people threatening that power. I would love it for them to fight about, oh, non-conspiracies they made up, and people taking horse medication, and oh, we're out of toilet paper now, and oh, some other issue with different kinds of human rights, and oh, let's talk about this issue and stuff. Not that these issues are unimportant or shouldn't be addressed, but instead of everybody looking at me and what I'm doing, they're looking at literally everything else, even stuff they've made up. And I feel like we should really stick it to them for the stuff they've done and hold them accountable. And instead we're dosing ourselves with like horse stuff, and it's just like, I don't know. The more you learn about the government and society and all this stuff, I think the more frustrating it is. And I tell the students every year and several times throughout the year, the more that we study history, the more you will hate society. Because it's just true. Like, none of this stuff is new. This is all like the same stuff everybody's been doing, and everybody acts like it's like they've never heard of it before. And it's just very frustrating. If you said the wrong thing, would there be legal consequences? Like, would you lose some veteran benefits? No, I think it would still be classified as treason. And so that's a severe punishment. That's a severe crime. Yeah, that's why. That's why I've just never said it. And it was interesting because I've heard people say, oh, you know, just tell me. I'm not going to tell anybody, I promise. And I'm like, it's not you. It's that they can hear us no matter what. Like, that the Patriot Act is not quiet about that. Like, they can hear you. They can check your cell phones and stuff even when they're turned off. You know what I mean? And everybody know, like, they should know this because it's all public, you know? So of course they can't say anything. Ever. Otherwise I'll be in a lot of trouble. Like, criminally. Not just, like, financially or something. Criminally. Let's see. The AG that mishandled the Ahmaud Arbery murder might see some prison time. I haven't heard about that. General disorder leads to control in other areas. Exactly. Absolutely. You know, and not even to create the disorder so I can create a solution which would get me money and whatever. Although I can. It's an option. It's just to get everybody doing other stuff. Not focused on me. You know? I mean, imagine you're doing your own thing at work and you want to be left alone. And a bunch of people start going off about something that's not even a thing, but they're just not bothering you. Would you correct them? No, you just want to be left alone. So it doesn't even necessarily have to be super sinister. It could even be something like the EPA just is mad that people keep investigating whatever, and they're just lazy and don't want to be held accountable for stuff for whatever reason. But now we're too busy dealing with these weird accusations of masks somehow giving you bronchitis. Cool, I don't have to deal with that. That's not my thing. So it's not even like, what's that phrase? You don't assume malice where laziness could suffice or something like that. It's the same idea. They're just people like us. They're not like Mr. Burns, you know, plotting. But if they were, everything that society's doing is just playing right into that. Hiding in plain sight, yeah. Exactly. Hi, by the way, everybody enjoying a 3-day weekend? Speak for yourself, Paris. We don't get a 3-day weekend over here. Agreed, sometimes knowledge is a curse. It sucks because it's hard to convince people. Because it's not like, oh, here's like a couple sentences I can say. It's like, okay, so if we want to really understand what happened in Vietnam, we have to go back to what happened in Korea. But then if we really want to understand that, then we have to go back to, you know, like we have to keep going back. You know? And it's just like, it's a whole history lesson, and a lot of people don't want to listen to that. Have you heard about how Trump lawyers are pushing the big lie about how they were getting disbarred and censored now? I haven't heard that. But again, if I can get other people making a bunch of noise on my behalf, you know, it's like that thing. I did it the other day, a couple weeks ago with, I was being interviewed by Neil, the 604 atheist. I think it'd be great to do some of those shows, you know, the nonprofits or the atheist experience and whatever. I think it'd be awesome. But some people will say, oh, Lee, you should do that. And I always say, you tell them. Because if I got other people doing it for me, that's different. It's not about being lazy. It's just, it's something somebody else would listen to rather than like self-promotion. So if I'm a lawyer trying to complain against Congress for whatever reason, but if I get a bunch of their constituents bothering them, that's what I want. You know what I mean? So if it's just me saying, hey, I'd like to be on the atheist experience, would you guys, whatever, okay. But if it's several of their fans saying, hey, you know, you guys should invite this person on, they're more likely to listen. Do you see? And that's totally like non-evil, non-manipulative, villainous kind of the situation, right? This is just, it makes sense, you know. Never assume malice when incompetence suffices. Thank you. That's what it is. I think when it comes to the Patriot Act and the like, as vocal as the government is about it, people hear it, but it doesn't hit them until it affects them personally. Same with the pandemic. I don't even know anyone who's affected by it personally. They're just finding it shared and pretending that it affects them. Like, oh, I had no idea, pearl clutching, you know. But yeah, the pandemic thing for sure. What the government can do to the public if it hears our conversation. So they collect it. I mean, this is all open information in the United States. They collect it and they store it. And that's why you guys shouldn't really worry about it. They don't listen to everything. It's just if you trigger some keywords a few times, then they start listening. And if it's something that should be further investigated, it is. And if it's not, it's not. So our conversation here, is it being recorded? Absolutely. Are they doing anything with it? No. They just don't. That's what I'm saying. It's not like an invasion of privacy. It's like if you're having a discussion in the park and there's a lot of people in the park and you're having a discussion with your friend. Somebody's got to overhear that. Is that invasion of your privacy? No. And if somebody hears you plotting a crime, they can notify the police and get you arrested. Was that an invasion of your privacy? Not really. It's kind of like that. It's not like invading your phone records and stuff. It's like eavesdropping, really. And if there's something that's relevant, then they check it. That's all. That's what I'm saying. It's not like a big deal. And again, this is public, so I'm not like sharing anything covert or whatever. Let's see. You can't just eat the cake, huh? You got to learn how to bake it, what it's made out of, where it came from in order to truly understand the cake. People just want to taste the cake, though. Yes. And that's, I think, good as an analogy, because this is like you could just eat the cake, but you don't know what it's doing to you. And if you're the type of person I am, especially since I used to be like morbidly obese, I want to know what it's doing to me and all of this other stuff. So I have to go into it. Most people don't care, you know? And it's not that it makes me better than them. It's just, I'm just a huge nerd and I just really want to know this stuff. And so it's hard to share it with people because they have, you know, other priorities and other hobbies and other stuff that they're interested in that I'm not interested in. So that's what I think makes it the most difficult, is you can really only talk about this with other people that are dorks, and then most people aren't dorks, and that's the problem. You'd be an awesome guest in those shows. Then say something, thank you. The God Awful Movies podcast. Yeah, I would love to be on that too. The Stop the Steal grifter lawyers are indeed not only facing disbarment, but are also facing criminal charges, which is really chef's kiss. When will you be doing a reading of the Gnostic text? So, Hero, you have asked me that 20,000 times. And I've told the students when they ask me those questions of, hey, when you're going to do the one thing that I need you to do or would like you to do, I always ask them, is there a reason that you need me to do it right now? Like, they'll say something like, teacher, I turned that late work in. Okay. Did you grade it? Do I need to grade it right now? Well, I turned it in. Yeah, I've got a lot of students and a lot of other work to do. Do you need me to grade it right now? Like, are your parents yelling at you about it? No? Okay. So you do know I got a lot of work to do, right? Right. And it's not that I don't like you. It's just I can't show you preference. Like, I can't show you preferential treatment. Right. Cool. Got it. So the answer's still the same, man. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to get to the Gnostic text. I'll get to them when I get to them. I got nothing for you. I haven't made like specific plans. Like, it's on my schedule. Like, oh yeah, Hero keeps asking about it, so now I'm going to put it on there. You know, I just got like, I got nothing. I'm not trying to make fun of you. I'm just saying there's like a bunch of other stuff I got going on. Do you know what I mean? Even just health-wise, you know. Let's see. Oh, by the way, what are your thoughts on the Great Reset? We talked about that. Did we talk about that? We talked about that in the Patreon chat. Wow, people lost their minds over nothing. I was really shocked. I was shocked when I watched like the clips of it, because I didn't watch the full thing, but there's like these clips of it I watched. And then I scrolled down to the comments section and I was like, did we watch the same clips? It's nuts. Any South Park fans out there remember the eavesdropper episode? Yes. Actually, it's really like that. Yes, we did check him for a second, but then we found him to be fat and unimportant. Like, that's it. Most Americans are fat and unimportant. I'm sorry. I love you. Okay. Is the Great Reset like Y2K? No, it's just this idea that since there's so much that's gone wrong because of what's going on in the pandemic, while we're trying to kind of like fix what's going on in society, we may as well fix some of this other stuff too. Get the governments involved in like regulating businesses properly so we're not like polluting the air. And somehow this turned into like, well, I didn't vote for these people and they planned this, a pandemic. I swear it's a pandemic. Oh, it's the end of the world. These guys are 666 because of something in the Bilderberg numbers and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, all they're saying, it's like if your house gets hit by a tornado and you got to rebuild it anyway, you're just kind of like, well, you know, since we got to rebuild it anyway, we've been meaning to put that addition on the house. Why don't we just build it back? You know, that's what it is. Well, you know, we've been meaning to redo the kitchen anyway. You know, since we're rebuilding the house, since it got hit by a tornado, well, let's just, you know, let's redo the kitchen while we're at it. That's what the Great Reset is. But the people are hearing that as, my husband planned the tornado. Like, that's what they're freaking out. I didn't vote for this. I didn't allow this tornado to come. This tornado is a conspiracy. This tornado was sent by Satan. This is the end of the world. But really, all it is, wow, there's a natural disaster. I mean, while we're cleaning it up, we may as well make it better, right? Yeah, okay. Like, that's all it is. That's it. Oh. If you were on one of those ACA or line call shows, there anything in particular you want to talk about or anything that you really like that experience? Demonic possession and exorcisms, yes. And like haunted stuff. That would be like the thing I would really want to talk about. You feel attacked. I'm sorry. I rewatched the collaboration did with Apologia. I almost said Apologia. Apologia. I love Apologia. I love him. I accept your assertion about my countrymen. Oh, the fat thing. That's what I mentioned. Yeah. BMI is high on me too. There we go. Sorry. So it's even more stupid than Y2K. Y2K had some like legitimate fear, and then people like there was like an actual concern that people went crazy with. I guess the Great Reset would be equivalent to all the people putting in the work to prevent Y2K. And then people losing their minds that somebody put the work in to prevent it from being bad. That's what it's like. The Rio conference in the 90s specifically had the year 2000 as a goal. It's been rebranded as 2030 goal, become a huge part of government policy around the world. Are you talking about Agenda 21? Or is that 2040? My hometown's an indicator. Most Americans are at least 50 pounds overweight. You'd be surprised. People lie about their weight, but also just the amount of like, oh, this is normal. Yeah, a lot of people are actually a lot heavier than that, surprisingly. Sounds like a show you'd be most at home on. I know, it'd be fun. So that is it. Yeah. Again, the Agenda 21, I mean, it's totally voluntary. There's no way to enforce it. There's nothing to agree to. There's no signing that needs to be done in the sense that you're committing to anything. It's just like, hey, wouldn't it be a good idea for us to make sure that companies don't, like, put a bunch of pollution in the water? Okay. Can we make that happen? When? I don't know. 2030? We can try. Like, that's it. That's it. That's the big depopulation conspiracy. That's it. It's not even that long to read. I would definitely love to see you as a remote co-host on AE. Okay, tell them. Like I said, for me to just say hi, put me on your show, very like, they don't know that there might be an entertainment quality to me, I guess. But if people that aren't me say something, then you should say something. You know what I mean? I think on that note, an hour later, I was supposed to get off an hour ago. Oh my gosh. But that's okay. I had a blast. Not feeling super good physically, but mentally had a blast. So take screenshots of this chat and send it to them. Yeah, that could. Or you guys can just say something. Because if it's me, they could miss it. If it's 2, 3, 5 people saying something, and they miss 2 or 3 of them, they might see the other 2 or 3. You know what I'm saying? Truth Wanted, that's a show. I think any shirt would be a benefit from having your presence. Yeah, again, just say something to them on my behalf. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think Truth Wanted would be fun as well. Because, I mean, we don't need to just keep talking about the morality of biblical slavery, right? Unfortunately, that's what a lot of the shows are. A lot of the callers and stuff, you know, it's unfortunate. Yeah. Loved a 3-hour chat. Glad you stayed on. And girl, it's like 4 hours. Glad you could catch me too on live. Please stay safe. Please wash your guys' hands and all that stuff. Take your vitamins, drink your water, and all that. Ice your head if you need to. I'll see you guys later. If you guys haven't, I'll give you guys a link to the Discord. There's a lot of like cool conversations you guys are having. I wish I could be part of all of them, but there's enough awesome conversation that you guys will have a blast anyway. So there it is. Slavery is the number one topic of all time. I know, right? Yeah, I hope I'm feeling better in the near future as well. Many conspiracy theories are matrix style. A giant apparatus exists to obscure reality that costs well in excess of any gain it would confer. Exactly. Like, if you're gonna get biofuel, it's not gonna be from humans. Bye, Jonathan. First time I actually asked in like a month about the Gnostic texts. It doesn't matter right now. No. I know. I'm just saying I don't have any additional information for you. Yeah. So that's all. Boa noite. I don't know how to pronounce that. I lied about. I only knew about Bom Dia because I made a pen pal in like Brazil. Yeah. Money has already taken my free will away. Why do people still harp on the old style of slavery? I mean, yeah, to an extent. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't believe in conspiracies. I don't believe in flat Earth. I don't believe in aliens. I don't think you're a conspiracy theorist. So I don't know why you're. Did I I mean, I don't know. If I seem to imply that, that's not what I meant. So I apologize. But no, I know you're not a conspiracy theorist. I believe in aliens though, but not that they visited this planet like bacterial life on other things. That's what I'm talking about. No real option for opting out of society. You can try. Some people that do it pretty well. But it's nice to have that medical care when you need it, I think. But maybe for the food might be better. Gonna enjoy your tofu with brown rice. That sounds good. That sounds really good. I try freezing blocks of tofu and then you can put it into like an oven. That's really good because it changes the texture. I simmered it in this like really weird like smoky tea, and then I froze it and I put it in my air fryer, and it's good. It's good. I recommend it. Give it a shot. All right, guys. See you later. Yes, you'll teach me how to greet in Portuguese. All I know is bom dia. That's it. That's all I know. That's all I know. That's the extent of my Portuguese and anything that I accidentally picked up on Archer. All right, guys. Bye-bye.